And everybody, welcome to another episode of Mac Yak. We should not have any echoes because everything is muted, like it's supposed to be.
Hello.
So we should have a pretty good start to this show, at least, except for me.
And you jinxed it.
Yeah.
Congratulations on your new achievement.
So everybody, hopefully you guys had a good week. I know I've had a pretty decent week. So how's everybody doing?
I'm eating dinner, so I'll let someone else go.
Yeah, we could hear you in the background.
It's been all right.
JD's to eat dinner a little earlier, that's...
I know, I ate before the stream. Jeez.
So did I.
Slacking.
I did, but only 6 minutes before.
And Bruce has probably already ate lunch already, so...
No. I'll have lunch afterwards. I've already had lunch afterwards.
Okay, that sounds like somebody's going to the
Who's
bathroom.
in the bathroom?
No, nobody's in the
Well,
You're the one that displayed on camera.
Everybody was like quiet, and all of a sudden I'm hearing...
Eating dinner. Yeah.
I am, I swear. I know Steve did something interesting last night.
Oh, yes. You can still see the aftermath of that setup on my desk.
Wow.
Me. So, yeah. So that was fun. That was
Table's
just
still
3
standing.
hours. It's not a Grudy table. It's pretty sturdy.
So if Grudy's not here, we're going to drag on Grudy, huh?
Oh, shots fired.
That's
what we do. If I'm not here, you guys are going to dump on me all night. So, so I had this Macintosh 2, which I did a recapping stream of, and the only trouble I ran into after that was getting it to boot up. So I spent like 2.5 hours tinkering around with that yesterday just to get it to boot up, and then once it did, Jay, who has been just pestering me about adding more monitors to that thing.
I am innocent.
Well, he's very well known for his peer pressure.
Yes. Wanted me to just keep shoving monitors onto that. As you can see, I had to add 2 tray tables to the back of this insane setup here. We're going to take a walk just to
Here, I
fit
could
those monitors.
show them a picture if you want.
It's all right. It's right here.
There.
So, yeah, I had to put that up just to support these extra displays. Yeah, so we have an LCD just because that was a 4th monitor. Then we have a monochrome Apple monitor, a Performa Plus display, I believe, and then a Apple Portrait display. So yeah, fun tinkering that's been going on here. Now I'm cooking.
I paid to see 5 monitors up and running.
And you know what's funny though, Steve, is I actually fell asleep on your stream last night because
I almost fell asleep on my stream last night.
I fell asleep and I woke up and I was like, I had the iPad like laying on my chest there. I was like,
and my voice woke you up. That's a scary.
No, actually, the stream was already over, but yeah.
System 6. Yeah, you wake up like that, you get a heart attack.
Yeah, probably. So, how's everybody else been doing?
Doing good. Busy week working on my website. And today, let's see if I can reach it, if my headphones reach. I worked on this Xserve G5 power supply.
I wonder which Steve that's for.
Me too. Apart from that, working on the website, doing a lot of work on that, and that was pretty much my whole week.
So, question is, does it work?
It works better than ever.
Spoiler alert.
Yep.
So now Steve needs to make a video once he gets it back, right?
That's
Yes.
the plan.
Yes.
These wheels have been in motion for a while, even though it may not seem that way. There is a rudimentary plan.
Do you have a RAID yet,
Let's see how
though,
it
or
executes.
just the Xserve?
No, I only have my wife has only permitted the one Xserve in this household.
Ooh.
Which
Whoa.
her reaction was, what the hell is that on top of the fridge?
You're allowed to have stuff outside the basement?
No, this was we have a old refrigerator that came with the house.
That's down in the
seldomly
basement.
Plugged in. That's down in the basement. And she said, what is that shiny metal thing with the Apple logo on top of the refrigerator?
Yep, and
Yeah,
Power supplies for Steve Wozniak. Yeah,
Yes,
no.
yes, he
No.
requested that. I swear, I'm just holding this X server for a friend. I swear, X server. Just holding it for a friend. I swear.
it's not mine.
This
It's
raid
not
is just
mine.
for
It's a
friend.
friend's.
I'll never believe that.
Yeah. All right, guys.
And-
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jay.
No, apart from that, I wasted an incredible amount of time this week on live streams.
Yeah.
Like, I think I set a new record.
Watching.
Yep.
Yeah, you haven't done any though, so you need to do something.
I don't live stream very well. I don't have the right cameras, the right lighting, the right voice, the right material, the right
Yeah, you
anything
do.
to live stream.
When you
so.
when you did your board repair stuff, that was pretty interesting. Some of it, seeing all the grossness that some people allow
Yeah.
on their logic boards.
You
I
can
don't
see
have the
that
right
at
lighting
Rossman
either,
though.
Jay.
That's true.
What?
I don't have the right light either. I can't put the camera too far up, too far down. I'm blinding people. So
Yeah, I'm like, bright light, bright light.
sorry.
So if anybody
Don't-
wonders,
Yep.
Steve is in a different location right now, and you can see all his wonderful stuff behind
Crap.
him. Well, I wouldn't say it's crap. It's probably Macs and stuff, right?
Damn right it is.
So yeah, Steve's in a different location. So
No, it's the same location. You just never see this angle of it because there's so much garbage. It's been the same location the whole time.
see, you should have had the camera different then.
I don't know where I put the other tripod.
Now, Rocky, you
Somewhere over there.
came across a
I
new
did
machine.
something this week.
Yeah, tell us about your new
Yeah.
machine.
Well, this week, I got the machine like a week or two ago. No, it was more like probably 2-3 weeks ago now. But I got all the parts in today. Thank you, GT, for sending the CPUs. They are the 2.4s, which turbo boost to 2.8. So it's equivalently the same performance speed-wise as my 3.1 that I'm still on at the moment, because obviously I couldn't take this out of it. But I did get done putting those CPUs in, new thermal paste, new thermal pads. I did actually mount down the north bridge properly, so it's not sitting there hanging in the breeze with a plastic retainer. And I got it all cleaned up. So it is running. I did some Geekbench scores. I look forward to actually submitting it as a new machine. I haven't decided on its name yet, but it's going to be posted in the Mount Olympus Challenge right alongside Toru, my 3.1. We'll see who's faster. Plus, I do actually have a live stream thing I'll do later. Well, maybe not live stream, but I'll at least post the information about it. But a lot of people have mentioned about it in the past, and I never had a good write-up. But now I'm going to have an official 4.1, 5.1 write-up, because I have a 3.1 kind of write-up about it, but it's a little bit different. And I'll be swapping the Wi-Fi card for one out of a 2013 Mac. iMac, that is, so that it has all the same handoff and all that great Bluetooth features that you get. Because my 3.1 already has that mod, but I'm going to do it to the 4.1. So
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that is cool. So
Which one?
who's getting your 3.1?
My daughter. She already called dibs.
Nice.
So
What are you doing, Steve?
he's putting a new monitor. He said the monitor was acting funky.
Yeah, it might be the cable. I can't see you guys. 1 second.
Ah,
Nobody flip me off.
well, we did see you walk upstairs there, so. So, all right, guys. So we got a few topics tonight. Not as many as we had last week, but I think we're going to fill up pretty much 2 hours with this, especially this first topic tonight. I think we're going to talk about this one a lot, especially some of our viewers that actually did participate in this. So let's go ahead and jump into that. The 2020 PPC Challenge wraps up, and it's also our second anniversary, because we actually did this last year, same time, and we only had about 3 of us, or maybe, that participated fully in it.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
Yeah. But looking at the Discord, looks like we had a lot of people participating, or at least trying to participate in it. So what we want to do is, look at the comments, especially if you participated. Let us kind of know what you did. As far as me, I didn't really participate that much this time, even though last time, I mean, Jay knows this, I actually fully participated in it last time. I didn't hardly do anything on my, at the time, 2017 iMac, because I didn't have the Pro back then yet. But I did everything on my G5, and this time I was actually doing some stuff on my G5, like email and stuff like that. But I also have a PowerBook G4 that I was actually using this time, and I actually got email set up on it. It's working fine. If you're using two-factor authentication, it's really easy to go to Apple and get a password that it's a totally separate password. So you don't even use your password. It's called an app-specific password. So I went to do that, and it worked perfect first time, no problems. Then I got UT99 good to go on my G4 PowerBook, but have not had anybody to actually go and try to kill. So
Oh, we could change
yeah,
that.
so we still need to do that one of these days.
Yes.
We have done in the past UT 2004, but since we're doing the PowerPC channel, we're trying to do it even more low end, I guess, than we did last time. So, because last time I think I was using Leopard pretty much. So this time I'm using Tiger, using classic mode for all my my UT99 game. So, and it works perfect too, by the way, Jay. So just let you know.
I tried it. It runs like crap. I can't do it.
It runs fine on my G4. So
We got Matt. I tried to participate, but my iBook kept having issues. Dana used his iBook G4 quite a bit.
mm-hmm.
Zach started, but didn't finish. Ben is still in the process of buying a PowerPC. And then
Starbucks
says my iMac G5 is dead, so I tried it with my G4 iMac and it was not working out.
Starbucks says he.
And Starbucks doesn't even have a PowerPC. Shame on
Yeah. Ooh.
He's trying to get
Yeah.
one, it sounds like.
Yeah, but
Ben also said the same
there's
thing.
a lot more people participating this year. A bunch of them emailed me, so I put those stories on the MacYac website blog. I still have to update the last 2 days, which I will get to tonight.
Yeah.
But I used my I started off strong. I used the G4 10.4 Tiger. I didn't do OS 9 this year, and I actually got a good amount of work done. My challenge in this challenge is to be productive. Something that I don't often do anymore because there's just too many distractions. YouTube, Facebook, notifications, Discord, you name it. So I really enjoy working on the PowerPC. Bruce helped me out, track down some software that I need to fully update and work on my website. So that's been going really well. But the last few days, I just needed, I just needed raw speed. And I had to work on the Mac Pro to get my work done quickly. So I started strong, and then it kind of just fell to the side. So that was me.
And Bruce, you had some little tribulations too, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I was really desperately trying to avoid getting my G5. I've got a G5 tower, dual 2 gigahertz in storage. That humongous lump of aluminium, and or aluminum.
No. We like you to say it the other way, yeah. Because I can't say it that way.
And so I was just desperately hunting to try and find something that would do the task for me. And unfortunately, the best one I could find was a 12-inch G4 PowerBook that had 1.25 gigs of RAM and a 1.5 gigahertz CPU, and of course that has the ability to I could have the screen of the laptop and then have a 1080 monitor attached to it as well. So that gave me sort of two screens. Because of the low RAM, I was running Tiger, and there were just so many apps that, as far back as they just went to 10.5, but not to 10.4. And there were just too many things that I couldn't do with that. So, I basically one particular night where I'd sort of had a little bit of sort of fermented grape juice, I said, stuff it, I'm going to go and get that G5. So the next morning, I got up, headed out to the storage unit, dragged that thing back, had a few teething problems. It didn't want to start initially, but it did, it got running and quite reliably after that. I installed 10.5 on it. That one's had 3 gigabytes of RAM in it. So I never maxed that one out in the past, and I hunted around, but I didn't have much 3200 RAM. So 3 gigabytes of RAM in that, and I was able to get a lot of very usable apps on there. As a programmer, as a developer, I mean, all I'm essentially doing is sort of typing in text. So in many ways, most of my work I could do on it quite happily. I was running Dreamweaver CS4, and that was really zippy on the G5, really, really quick to use. And so I could sit there quite happily coding away. I can mount my network drives, to push files live and all that sort of stuff. And so a lot of that went really, really well. Where I came unstuck is the non-work stuff. So that's, when it comes to iMessage, Facebook, live streaming, watching YouTube videos, all this sort of stuff, all of that, I had to move to the new computer for that. So I kind of had a weird kind of a potential role reversal in that I could do all of my work on the G5, but I couldn't do all of my muck around on the G5. That one of the things that is most painful on those is browsing. So I had WebKit running, which always loads the mobile version of Facebook whether you want it or not, is quite slow for certain things. Some websites don't work properly on it. It's reasonably quick, but it's really, I mean, when you consider how much we all use the web these days, I mean, it gets painful after a while. So I simply could not work without having a little, 13-inch MacBook Air next to me running, a new operating system, so I could just jump on that to, do any of the sort of modern stuff, sit there and watch, Steve's 5-hour live streams, and that sort of stuff.
He nodded off after the first 5.
But yeah, I mean, on the whole, I would consider it a success. I mean, I've been doing quite a bit of work on Jay's website, and I was able to do all of that on the G5. So,
yeah,
that was me.
And he did great work.
What about you, Steve?
So I started off the PowerPC challenge in the best way possible, is figuring out why the hell a machine wouldn't work. So, again, the person that I'm talking about is not on the stream right now, but Mike gave me a Power Macintosh 9500, and this is the board from it. And it's a lovely machine, but it just doesn't want to work. So I'm getting freezes right at the question mark on boot up, which is never a good sign. So yeah, and does it have the ROM missing? Well, that might explain it. Anyway, there's
now he figures out the problem.
There's a batch of Sims and Dims all over my desk. Maybe it's there. Anyway, so the first 2 days or so was spent tinkering around with this. And then I went and got on the shelves in the other side of the basement, I have a stack of Mac Pros and G5. So I had to fish out which one of the G5s actually worked. And I have that set up there. And so that was working fine. The only problem is I don't have the proper intake fan on it. So it was getting a little toasty. I saw one of those online. I just got to procure that. And so, but that ran pretty much what I wanted to do. I was just managing media files, copying things over the network, etc. And my real plan was to use something vintage, like a 9500 or something like that. I was actually trying to look for streaming software, like an old version of OBS or something, and then it dawned on me that PowerPCs are just that old, and I'm that old. So I had a little bit of a crisis there, but I pulled through, And yeah, just been playing around with some iBooks and PowerBooks. And although the Macintosh 2 is not a PowerPC machine, I sort of chalk that in the bin of me playing around with that. But I honestly have not turned on my machine upstairs that I use for video editing. The only Intel Mac I've been using is this one here when I've been streaming, and my iPhone told me I've been on my screen more than 20% compared to previous weeks. So I think I'm using that as a crutch more than anything. But it's been fun. I wasn't able to participate last time, so I am at least trying to get my fix in here as much as I can.
And Rocky, did you do anything?
Well, unfortunately, I mean, I'd been working on the new Mac Pro, and my day job doesn't allow me to even really touch older Macs, so I haven't really been able to do any of the PowerPC challenge yet. I mean, if I had the room on my desk, there is a new Mac Pro sitting there instead, I would have been running my G5. So
I was gonna say, I know you have a G5, so yeah.
Yeah.
it's sitting right there on the floor, but it's not connected to anything because it's too far.
Oh, you
from
could
the
solve
connection.
that. Just need an extension cord.
Well,
maybe.
you know, we might have something for you there, right, Jay?
Yes, we do. By the way, check out iMessage. Grudy is begging us to join the call. So it's up to you.
No.
Right.
Well, GT figures that out. There were a lot of messages on Discord and Facebook of people that got started late, or the first few days they spent troubleshooting before they finally got going. So I ran a little poll on Discord, like, hey, a lot of late starters, a lot of people that are finally up and running. How about we extend the PowerPC challenge for another week? And I got nothing but thumbs up. So I was personally already planning on extending my challenge for a week because I really want to get the full experience because I missed a few days this week. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to run. What is up with my voice tonight? We're going to run the PowerPC challenge for another week. Everybody that should be set up by now can participate. It's optional. Of course, you don't have to. Hell, you don't even need the PowerPC challenge to use your PowerPC. It's just some fun to do. But if you wanna keep a little log of what you're doing, at the end of this week, write up a little story. Tell us what you did, what you used your Mac for, your experience, your issues, and then we'll post it on the blog. I have a pretty big project in mind for my PowerPC at the end of this upcoming week. So that should be fun. But mostly I want to keep being productive. I just love being productive on that thing. And I want to get Unreal Tournament up and running.
Oh yeah,
So.
especially 99. We've been trying to get a 99 game going all week, and none of us have had time to actually do it.
I played with Grudy once.
Did you kick his?
Grudy, it was me.
Oh,
It
you?
was me.
No, did I?
Yeah, you were tinkering with their settings half the time.
Oh, and I still shot you a lot. I remember that.
You leave such a lasting impression.
Well, see you later, guys.
So yeah, if we gave you a week to get ready before the PowerPC challenge started, a lot of people weren't ready. Now that the challenge is almost over, people are finally ready. So we're going to do this for another week. So have fun and get your stuff together. All right? No more extensions.
Yep.
Wait, I need extensions to. Oh.
Nope.
It was a stupid joke there, and it boom, right over.
Yeah, that was good. I actually liked that. I caught that
Nice
one.
joke.
That's all right. We'll pull the ATI extensions out so that it can.
Well, yeah, wasn't you having a problem with that, Jay? Something about
Yes. Unreal, last year, I used a G4 iMac for the PowerPC challenge. 50, well, I thought it was a 15-inch. Turns out to be a 17-inch.
Size matters.
Everything ran great. That's what she said. Except Unreal Tournament. It ran like crap, and I couldn't figure out why. So now, the issue I'm having is the OS 10 version of UT99, some kind of weird port that they did, it runs like garbage on OS 10.
Uh huh.
So I have to go back to OS 9 to make the game work, but OS 9 is having a heart attack because in my MDD is a G5 graphics card, and I'm powering 2 huge displays with it. So OS 9 is freaking out, and Grudy had the idea for me to disable some ATI extensions, and I already forgot what he suggested.
Don't you
I
have
have to look it up.
a blue and white G3? Or no?
Yeah.
So?
He didn't want to use that. He
So?
wanted to use his.
Use
he wanted
that.
to use his MDD.
I don't have a graphics card for it. I harvested all the ATI Rage cards in the house for the Xserve cluster. Then I'll use those cards.
Oh, you could temporarily borrow one from that?
Well, you saw
yeah,
how
Let me know.
me
I can
take
send
apart-
you a card
well,
if you
Steve
want
did
one.
that the
Yeah.
last night. He was harvesting cards out of other
Yeah.
machines to meet
Uh-huh.
your 5 monitor challenge there.
Come on, Jay. There's some give and take here. I have to do, pull out parts for your challenge.
Give and
you know.
take. You walk to a shelf, open a computer, and pull out a card. I have to take the entire rack apart.
Never
to get
mind.
into these
No, you
things.
don't.
Never
You just gotta
mind.
pull it. You
Yeah, I
gotta pull
do.
it out and.
Just you get a
Oh,
saw
you think I'm?
and
You,
you
think
just
I'm
cut.
fancy?
you
I
cut the
bought
corner
rails
off.
for all those Xserves at $60 a pop. No, I just stacked them.
Rudy looks like he just turned on like a mainframe and is like. Just the reflection of his glasses is great. Welcome to the chat, Grudy. We're talking about how
Well,
Jay
hold
should
on.
rip out one of the graphics cards from his Xserve and put it in.
Well, he's not on
to
the
a
stream
G3.
yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
We're still deciding
Oops.
if we want to let him in.
you're talking about the current ghost person in
I'm
the
talking.
show.
I'm talking to the G4. That's over there. Grudy is embodied into that.
Yeah.
All right, he is on. He just needs to unmute himself. So
Hi guys, my internet came back on.
All right, mute him again.
so I had to
I
do.
hope everything's working, by the way, because this is the first time I'm testing Skype
So
since
not
I
dead.
rebuilt the Mini.
So Wendy is going to like slam you for me messing up her display there because I can't get you exactly perfect like everybody else. So
Sorry, Wendy.
Wendy, it's all on Grudy.
I wasn't supposed to be on tonight, but I got the chance to get back on, so here I am.
Yes, I don't think we ever actually explained why he wasn't there in the first place, did we? We didn't quite
No.
get to that.
So
Yeah, because my internet's not working,
And now it works.
yeah.
and now it's working.
So the reason why you weren't there before is because the internet wasn't working. And now
Yeah.
everyone
Okay,
knows.
so we were talking about the PowerPC challenge, Grudy. So he did send me a video. I'm
When-
not going to play now, of course, because he's here live. So
Wendy says, "Oh my God, I'm not an angry designer."
That door's gonna open, and one of those Xserve racks is gonna be thrown at Jay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you guys don't understand on the process for me to get Grudy in here, I had to actually put his above the background now. So he's actually out of order of all my stuff. So
I know he messed up the whole perfectly aesthetic
know.
G4 layout. and
know.
everything.
What are you doing, dude?
Oh, 1 second, I'm getting the stream up here. Here we go.
All right.
All right, I'm all set.
All right.
So, PowerPC challenge. I'm guessing you guys have already gone through your experience.
we were stalling for
during
time
the
because we
challenge.
knew you were coming on. So
Yeah. Yeah, sorry about stalling here, guys. But anyway, my experience is I managed to use the fastest, slowest G5 iMac for almost the entire week until it came to editing, because I was cheating. I'll admit that. When it came to editing videos, I was remoting into my Mac Pro to edit. That didn't work very well. It was really, really, really bad.
That sounds painful.
Oh, it was horrible.
Especially over Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was over Wi-Fi. Although the
course it
Mac
is.
Pro was literally sitting right next to me and I could hear the speakers. And it didn't work very well. So I eventually gave up on trying to edit
You
through that.
may as well set up a series of mirrors.
Yeah, basically. But other than that, other than the fact it was painfully slow on a single 1.6, it worked. I was able to watch YouTube. If you saw my iMac unboxing video for the 1.8, I did the 3-day update, and it was basically the same for the rest of the week. I just it was just slow. It watched YouTube at 240 with 240p with the occasional like every other frame skipping, which wasn't great, but what can you do?
Well, what it looks
searched
like what you're doing,
Facebook
what you're doing
slowly.
now, because you're actually starting to skip now.
Yeah, it adds
Oh.
character. It's character building.
Yeah.
Which
I don't know why
OS
I'm
did you opt for?
skipping. But you guys can hear
Yes.
me, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
That's all that matters, right? Anyway, so other than that, I surfed Facebook without much of a problem. It was just slow. And I checked my email, although I rarely check my email. I checked my email with no problems with the browser. I was too lazy to set up the mail app, so I just used the
Of
browser.
course, you're lazy. You're.
I never
works
check email on the computer.
What do we
so
What do we
I
say,
will
Jay?
use my phone
What do we
anyway,
say,
though.
Jay? Millennials.
Yeah.
Hey,
It has nothing to do with millennial. I'm with him. I use my email only on my phone. I don't bother getting on the computer. It's a waste of time.
I actually really enjoyed the 10.5 mail
I do
app,
too, actually.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
more than the new one, because one of the things that I really liked about it specifically is when you type in a search, if you're trying to search through your emails, the way the new mail works is you type in a search, and let's say you want to search for a name or a sender or whatever, you got to then wait for the little menu to pop up to select whether you're searching name or sender or whatever.
yeah.
On the old one, there's just those buttons there. You just do search, press the button. It's actually way quicker than the new one.
Have
So,
any of you noticed that, maybe not web browsing, of course, but most of the native apps and, age-appropriate apps like Photoshop and all that stuff are so much faster on the PowerPC than they are on our freaking 12-core Mac Pros.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the old versions are fast. The old versions on old computers are faster than new versions on new computers.
Yes.
Essentially, yeah, that's right.
Well,
yeah, I know.
I think that's because of developer creep, where they just add more and more code. It gets
Yeah.
installed on there.
Yeah, I think we
Well,
talked about that.
here's
But
something.
there's no need to optimize things anymore. You have gigahertz processors and terabytes of space and gigabytes
Well,
of memory. So why?
Since we're
Who
talking
cares?
about that, should we
Yeah.
go on to our next topic? Because that's kind of.
Well, real
Oh,
quick.
go ahead.
There is
Here's
one
something.
thing I just. Sorry, you go.
No,
there's-
Bruce.
You guys might not know this, but half of my channel art is done on my G5's CS4.
Yeah.
Is that
I
that why it
love
looks so
that.
simple?
Yeah,
Yeah, basically.
Oh,
Definitely. I just
shots
don't want to
fired.
put details into it.
not much has been added of value to to Photoshop in a lot of the later versions. That's my opinion anyway. I would quite happily jump onto version 7 and barely even tell a difference between that and sort of 2020.
Well, you know the
But,
differences.
But I just wanted to very quickly mention that I was the when you're searching for software for the PowerPC challenge and you're going around and you've got particular apps you might use and you're looking for older versions, I just wanted to mention the incredible joy you feel when you go onto a website to download something and then you see a little link to go older downloads and find they've got all these old versions
Oh,
that go
yeah.
right back
yeah.
to like 10.5 or something. I mean, that when you find that on an app, on a website somewhere, it's wonderful. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
Well, since
feeling.
we're going to mention it, Macintosh Garden is probably your best bet for getting all that stuff, and we could thank our.
Well,
Absolutely.
I ran into just very briefly, I ran into a similar issue that Bruce was just talking about finding the old software. And at my old job, we had a G4 Xserve that was running a Mac OS 9 app as a server to do stuff on the web. And it had to be rebooted once in a while. And for whatever reason, something got corrupt and they couldn't FTP into it anymore. So we had to find a version of an FTP server for PowerPC. And just every link that we found for Panther, just was gone off the face of the earth. Either the links didn't work anymore, or the download was corrupted, or somebody uploaded an exe instead of a zip file, or whatever. And that was fun.
And the
Well,
exe file was probably a virus
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Probably.
Before we move on to the next topic, I wanted to ask all of you and everybody in the chat, why do we like the PowerPC challenge so much? Why do we like to go back to our old Mac or our old operating system of choice? Why aren't we as fanatic about what we currently have opposed to what we use in challenges like this? What is it?
One of
Because
my
it
main
just
reasons,
works.
that too. But one of my main reasons is just it's fun making newer stuff run on much, 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 much older unsupported hardware. That's my main reason there. I love
But we're
doing
talking about PowerPC though, because you're limited to Leopard is pretty much all is as
Yeah.
high as you're going to get.
Yeah.
You can still do all that modern online stuff
Yes,
with
you
Leopard.
can.
It's just you have to
Yeah.
take a detour every once in a
Yeah.
while.
Dana says it's nostalgia. Starbucks says it's fun to see how old tech works today. The design of the operating system was more geared to desktop use, says Jake.
Yep.
It's for me, and I really had to ask myself this question after I watched Steve's video about the iMac and all the USB peripherals. That video just really struck a chord with me, and I I asked myself the question, why do I like this old stuff so much? Why do I like collecting and using the old Macs, the ones that I started off with? And I couldn't figure it out. I had to like freaking psychoanalyze myself to get an answer. And for me, it came back to I liked that era, those computers, that operating system, because back then my Mac had a purpose. I had a purpose. When I sat down at that computer, I know I was going to get some work done. I was, you didn't sit down at your computer to do nothing like we do today. So I think that's it for me. And like Bruce touched on as well, you get so much
Well,
done.
here's the thing too about that, Jay. You talk about that. Well, you're getting stuff done, but at a slower pace, so it does take you a little longer to get it done. So therefore, you're actually doing more work. But yet, if you had like a modern PC, that stuff gets done a lot quicker. So then you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs. So guess what do? You go on Facebook, you go on YouTube,
Oh yeah, I can't tell you how many times I'm waiting for Final Cut Pro to import a clip or something, and I go on Facebook, and then 20 minutes later I'm like, wait, what was I doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I have to like mute notifications on Discord and crap
Yep.
like that. But I think to me it's more like a, back in the day I would check like Apple.com and Mac rumors religiously, back in the early 2000s, because it was the excitement of a new system with 100 more megahertz is going to be crazy, or like there's
Yeah.
going to be a new graphics card. Now it's like we got 12 cores, it's 5 gigahertz. It's like, okay, what's like the next push here? Like, I don't know, just for me, maybe it was because I didn't know much about computers as much as I do now, but it was like there was this whole magic mythology to like, oh my goodness, like it's a new display, or it's a G4 processor, or OS 9.2, or Panther's coming out, or Jaguar.
Yeah.
I got so like pumped about those things. It was just like, maybe it was because I didn't have a lot of people that liked that stuff when I was a kid, and now it's like, oh, everybody likes computers, or I found my group that likes computers or whatever. But just something nostalgic again to sort of circle
Well,
back
what's the thing with the CPU speed increases? Moore's
Yeah,
law.
Moore's law.
Yeah,
But
I mean, that
they
stopped-
kind of said that's
that stopped
actually
almost 10
no.
years ago.
It stopped about like they said 5 years ago, roughly. Because and
I
the
don't know. It's right now we got the same speeds with more cores,
Yeah.
and those cores don't mean
Well,
anything.
that's
unless you're running specialized software to use.
that's
those
because
cores.
in the last
Mail
10
app-
years they
Hold on. The mail app, whether you're
It's on a
using
roll.
10.0 or 10.15, the mail app still uses one core.
Mhm.
And even if you got the latest and greatest Mac Pro, the single core performance is pretty much the same as my 2012. It's a little bit better, but not that much. So, I don't get that excited about CPU bumps
No,
anymore.
it's
'Cause I know it doesn't
yeah,
mean much.
and you're perfectly right. But they stopped using that about 5 years ago because the last 10 years or so, CPUs have. This is the problem with Intel, especially Intel CPUs, and I think AMD is going to really make Intel have to change their way of thinking. They haven't really changed their architecture in 20 something years with the 86 the 88 or the what do you call it, the x86 architecture.
Yeah.
64 is based on
Yeah.
the AMD version. They just traded
I
whatever,
mean,
who's paying who for
but
royalties.
you see, we've had 64-bit computers out for 15 years or so.
Longer
Yeah.
than that if you count
Yeah.
Apple. Apple had them since early
Yeah.
PowerPCs.
So you figure, you know, and then now everybody's bitching about, oh well, Catalina's going to 64-bit. Well, that's a natural transition. It should have happened years ago, to be honest with you. But
I wish it happened years ago. Then we would have the software that we know and love.
exactly.
Updated.
Well,
Yeah.
Apple gave developers a couple of years to get that stuff updated, and
Yeah, but that doesn't help
well,
us with
true.
Unreal Tournament
If they would have done it
2004.
back in 2004,
And
Yeah.
it does not help us with things like QuickTime 7, which only recently Apple, since introducing QuickTime X, is like, nobody needs that
Yeah.
anymore. Like if this was a 64-bit Intel transition earlier or whatever, maybe we would have had Intel versions of those apps that were 64-bit capable that wouldn't have just like died on the
yeah,
vine.
Yeah.
I have to
Yeah.
agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So
But it doesn't even make sense because the G5 was a 64-bit CPU. It was regression, and then they progressed.
yep. All right.
And in the comments,
Okay.
hold on, we got some comments here. Let me catch up. Let's see. Zach uses picture-in-picture.
Ooh, Android
Matt
phone.
says the same thing. He uses picture-in-picture to watch videos while he works on his
Greg,
Mac.
you can't boot Android. You have a freaking Android wristwatch.
No, I don't.
So,
Oh,
What does that look?
what was on your wrist the other night, sir? If you could,
I have
recall?
not had it on my wrist for 5 months now.
Oh, you admitted it. Anyway, that's stepped right into that trap.
But it still connects to my iPhone. I just like the design of that particular watch.
Sorry, Jay. Just continue.
no, it's all good.
I just need to pull that.
I love a good roast. Dana says it's closely tied to why I'm a collector. I enjoy feeling like I'm stepping back in time when I use 68K or PowerPC machines, and I get to have the ones that were always way too expensive back in
That
the
is
day.
true right there.
That is nice. The setup I have right now
There
for the
you
PowerPC challenge would have cost like $12,000 when it was
Oh
new.
yeah,
So,
that's
you know,
that's
it's
probably
crazy.
90% of why I started my collection. Is like, oh, I always wanted an iMac G4. It's $30. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my big
Why?
reasons.
Yeah.
And this is a question that Rocky and Grudy might be able to answer. I sure as hell don't. Jim Barnes says, how many people can still say that they can functionally use a Windows PC of the same era in this day and age?
I
Nope.
can.
You can't.
You can.
No.
You
You
if
have
you
to.
want to
Right.
be unsafe and be like somebody
have-
walking around in
No,
an
no.
infected area without a condom,
No.
having
You just have to be a little hacky to get it to work.
Wait, how did we get into comments?
Where are you going into
No.
this?
If you all right, same era, you're talking XP. You're
Yeah.
talking an era where if you even start touching the internet, you might as well kiss that thing goodbye. And if you want to walk around unprotected, be my guest.
You can still do it though, and
Yeah,
you can
can.
run Windows 7, which is just drop support.
But
And if
Windows
you want to
7,
get hacky, you can run 8.1 too.
Oh, you could also drop an anvil on your head, but why would you want to do that?
Exactly.
I do remember back in the day when I was, I think I was setting up. Oh no, it was when I used virtual machines. If I installed Windows or at school, I had to hurry. When the install finished, I couldn't take a break. I couldn't go to lunch. I couldn't do anything. I had to install an antivirus immediately, or if it would just sit there doing nothing, it would get infected. That was amazing. And you would just walk away, come back, and it would be infected. You hadn't even touched anything yet.
That
was
was the
incredible.
nice thing about Windows 8. It came pre-built in, and that
I would say
basically fixed that
8.1
problem.
is when they fixed that because 8.
Okay,
had some
I
serious
thought
flaws.
8
I'm
I thought
beginning.
8 was like the worst one ever besides Vista,
it was.
Honestly,
No,
I
8's worse than
didn't
Vista.
I didn't really mind it because I used Start 8 to have my start menu back, and it worked
Jay's
fine.
gonna-
Okay,
Girl.
yeah, Jay's getting
Yeah.
ready to
But
Yeah.
moving back to the
Let's
realm
just
of
skip on to the
7.1.
next topic at
Yes.
this point.
Welcome to Windows, Yak.
Yeah.
Yes.
No.
I prefer Windows ME because it's faster than
Oh!
Windows 98.
I'm Windows 3.0, man. What are you talking about?
I'll go back to Atari before I ever
Oh,
touch
DOS.
Windows again.
All right, guys. So let's go on to our next topic here. We were talking about a little earlier, and I was kind of mentioning on this, is the new Mac Pro is now supporting 1.5 terabytes of RAM. Laptops are supporting 32 gigabytes, et cetera, et cetera. So systems are able to hold more RAM. So that makes it less of an incentive for developers to actually optimize their code anymore. So, like we were talking about, will they make our current Macs obsolete faster?
Yeah. And we know obsolete is relative. It's only going to be as obsolete as you force
Yeah.
it to be. But let's just roll with it and say, hey, Adobe is a good example. They have been bloatware for over a decade.
Well, their Flash,
And
and Steve Jobs is right
yeah.
about that. That should have died a long time ago.
So, they have no incentive to optimize their code to make it work on older systems. And now that the newer machines are accepting more RAM, faster processors, and all that, do you think they're going to do even less optimization and just keep bloating it and throwing it out there as fast as they can to keep their subscribers for the monthly plans happy? And
I look at it this way because I at work had to disable some features on the current version of Adobe Creative, whatever the heck, because the 2015 MacBook Pro's video card or whatever was like not supported with some new GPU enabling whatever the heck, and I got some message that was just like, oh, by the way, you can't use graphics acceleration anymore in Photoshop. See you later. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, this machine isn't even that old, and you're just like deprecating the use of this. Now, it could be that because Apple's moving over to killing older drivers and stuff like that and 32-bit stuff, there may have been some underlying code that they're like, all right, you know what, let's just get rid of this. But it just seems like exactly what Jay's saying. They're just going to have extra excuses here to just be like, no, you need a 2019 Mac Pro to use, Adobe Photoshop Elements.
Yeah. And one good example is I use Dreamweaver CS6 a lot because it's the last version that has a CSS editor in it that makes sense to my brain. So I've always stuck with CS6. And my website is was quite big in size with a bunch of HTML tables and PHP code everywhere. And Dreamweaver would choke up and crash if I started shuffling stuff around. So along comes this guy that thinks he knows everything better. And his name is Bruce. And he says, you know what?
Wait, you mean he doesn't? Because from all accounts, I think he has.
Yeah, I might agree. He says, try CS4. I said, dude, if CS6 is already struggling, how is CS4 going to do? He's like, just try it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to try it. He said, try it or else. So I did. And it actually runs incredible. It is so freaking fast. And that's older software than what I was already using. I install it on my G4. It's just as fast as it is on my Mac Pro. Identical. And like,
That's
wow.
because of a thing called bloat.
Barely any
And
any functional difference between the two either, in my opinion. I mean, if you're using the two, I certainly for the work I do, you can hardly tell the difference between the two of them from just like a functional standpoint. What tools they have, they're virtually the same. Just one crashes all the time.
Yeah, and is that from a time I'm not too up to speed on Adobe and their products from that era, but were they still optimizing for PowerPC back then, or
I don't know. I often wonder with big development companies, big software companies like Adobe, what the culture is like in a place like that. I mean, do they have a really high staff turnover? And you've got to imagine that if you are constantly getting old developers going, new developers coming in and stuff like that, you would have to imagine that sort of culture would end up with sort of lots of disjointed code and a lot of bloat and a lot of unnecessary, and maybe stuff that started by one person and finished by a different person, that sort of thing. I mean, as I say, I don't know what it's like at Adobe, but yeah, I mean, there just seems to be this drive to continually try and add some value to the fact that we're all paying a subscription to use it now. But
I have a little disagreement there with you. I'm sorry,
go
Bruce.
for it. No, I like it.
When it comes to Adobe, in my experience coming in with what I've done for the last 20 years, the thing is with Adobe, a great example, I think it's a culture within their company, honestly, unfortunately. Look at Flash. It went from something that had potential to now it's complete trash that is unsafe, that you should not install on your computer under any circumstances, and everybody's deprecating to try to get rid of it and run away from it. That's how pretty much all their software is. And all Adobe cares about is catering to the highest clients, and most of those clients have high-end machinery that don't notice when things get overly bloated.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's unfortunate.
But do you think those clients are actually saying, "Oh, a new version. I wonder what the new features are going to be," or they're just pressing the update button because it's come up and said there's a new version there?
I think
That's what they're doing. Yep.
Because
Yeah, that's what I'm
the
thinking they're
people
doing.
at my office, when Mojave came out, I walked by everyone's desk and it was updating, and I thought, oh, maybe IT's deploying it. No, everyone thought it was like an iPhone, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to update to the new operating system because I just wanted one. I'm like, well, no, what are you doing? Don't do that. Wait, it's version 1.0. No.
Well, especially with stuff like Adobe and Bruce and Steve, Dana in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've supported enough designers to know that pretty much universally they fear updates. I keep my wife's Adobe install one version behind the current, and she has on her hard drive CC 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19, and CC 2020, because she has to switch back and forth all the time. 2018 is missing this. 2016, that is broken. 2019 has that, but it's missing this. And like 200 gigabytes of old crap just because she needs to keep switching back and forth. And now
Sounds like Bruce's doc.
Yeah, right.
yeah. I mean, it's very true. I mean, I that is one of the reasons why there were so many what appeared like replicas in my dock, and that's because I do keep lots of older versions of things. Now, I don't go quite to the length that you refer to, but I do definitely go back to certain versions for certain tasks. Whether it just be a speed thing or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I like to stay with the latest versions wherever possible. Just I don't know, because I don't know, maybe because I'm paying for the subscription. That's maybe a good reason. But regularly find myself having to go backwards. When I installed Illustrator 2020, which came out relatively recently, it just crawled. Absolutely crawled.
Yeah.
I had to go straight back into 2019 because it was just unusable. Now, that might have been fixed with an update, but it doesn't exactly fill me with confidence.
Right. And I installed 2020 a few days ago. It says, hey, it's in your dock here. Test it out when you can, because we need to make some space on your hard drive. You got 20 gigs free. So she comes to me later, and we talk in the kitchen, and she's like, they brought back the crop tool. And I'm like, they took out a crop tool? It's a freaking designer app. Why would you take out a crop tool in the first place? And stuff like moving a bunch of tools to a separate button at the bottom where you get a drop-down menu that is grayed out and not working. And when she's on a deadline, there's no time to troubleshoot. I'm busy doing a board repair. I'm actually at the office doing stuff, or I am sleeping. Who knows? Whatever. There's no time to say, hey, can you troubleshoot this? Can you run a few tests? She just has to switch back to another version and get the job done. And that's sad that she needs 200 plus gigabytes of older application versions to get the job done. That's just sad.
Well, yeah.
But that's Adobe life. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
unless you switch to other tools, you're suffering with Adobe. It's the same way with PDFs. At work, we deal a lot with that BS with PDFs, and everybody's got to have this, and everybody's got to have that. I hate Adobe. They need to crash.
I
The
know,
company's
but
terrible.
for example, I've installed the Infinity Suite on a computer. I've installed GIMP, and they're all great tools, but there's a learning curve. And when are you going to take the downtime to teach yourself the new apps to get it going to where you want it? And then you have to
who's
exchange
gonna-
files with clients
Exactly.
that might not be compatible.
Exchanging files
You
with
know?
clients is a big thing. I mean, if I'm getting sent files in InDesign, I've got to have InDesign. I mean, I can't risk opening a file from a client into maybe a different app that does a conversion or something and find that one little thing moves. And then when I'm now working on a file that's not the same. I mean, it's like whether I want to use it or not, I have to, because that's what the clients is, sort of passing around to each other.
And in a perfect world, you got the time to teach yourself all these apps. You can watch all the lynda.com courses, become an expert at all of it. But you got a job, you got deadlines, you got clients, you got a kid to raise, you got a husband to keep yelling at to do dishes. And that's just my wife. I mean,
Dishwasher.
there's no space. This is a house from 1930. There's no space in the kitchen for a dishwasher. But she's got plenty going on without having to worry about her software not working or having to learn new software to make up for the shortcomings of the old stuff. And that's just she's running her own business. But imagine a building full of designers. Like, what are you going to do as an IT person when an update comes out?
Oh yeah.
Like, holy crap.
And
It's
I
a
think
mess,
these,
trust me.
I think these updates also aren't going through the QA that they normally would.
They're
Because
not.
think of it this way: when you shipped a CD, that CD better have worked, because printing and stamping all of those CDs, packaging them and shipping that out, that was like, oh my god, like if this is broken, we're effed. And now it's just like, oh, you can download a 12 gigabyte update. You'll be fine.
But it's the same as like
But
proofreading on magazines compared to proofreading for a website. People always proofread stuff that was going to print way more than they proofread stuff that's just going to get published on the web, because it's like, oh, there's a spelling mistake, I'll just change that now.
Or they.
But of
course, the sad thing is that
Apple for it.
Adobe used to be good. I mean, Adobe used to be. It's my opinion, but Adobe used to be an innovator. You know what I mean? They made fantastic software that people wanted to use.
Yeah.
But now they charge $400 for their Pro PDF suite just to do editing of PDFs. They charge $400 for that per user.
Yeah.
But they take the same approach as Apple. And we rag on Apple all the time, but we know every company does it now. There is no QA. QA costs money. We are the QA. You just push it out, wait for the complaints to roll in.
And here's the thing is, and I've told you guys this before. I'm in the Appleseed program, which is the beta test. It's before the public betas come out. Appleseed gets them first, and I've actually sent a lot of bug reports in, but I've never seen so much. I get some feedback back, and they say, okay, see if this fixes the problem. Then there's some that I never hear anything about. So it's like, did they fix it or not? And then there's some bugs that I've put in, never hear about, and it's still there in the next version. It's like, are you guys doing anything there? I mean, it makes me wonder if the culture there at Apple is like, oh, let's just drag this stuff out and just work when we want.
Well, I get
Is it
the
really
same.
ticking off enough people that we're not going to make money, or does it not matter? Are they just
I think the culture has changed at Apple a lot, and like Jay was saying, we do rag on them a lot. But when Steve Jobs was there, shit was a lot more tighter, than it is now.
Yeah, and I mean, you're writing an operating system to fit everybody's needs.
Mm-hmm.
You're writing stuff like Photoshop to fit everybody's needs. I am good at Photoshop. I would almost call myself an expert at Photoshop. But I use features that my wife never uses. I use this much from a package this big, and I'm good at that little piece of it.
Yeah.
But if I look at what my wife or some of my clients are doing in Photoshop, like, holy crap, I know 0.5%, and they have to write software that caters to users like me, users like her, users like that. And, it's hard. Same as an operating system. You have to cater to a lot of different use cases, but
Yeah, I think
test it.
also the Apple, at least in my experience, they're just deprecating features that used to work and just being like, oh, that's not supported anymore. I was using a tapeless analog to digital FireWire adapter that would take composite or S video signals and put them into FireWire. I was using that with iMovie and Final Cut Pro, and in some recent Mac OS update, you click import, it looks like it's importing, but nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And so I went through the feedback thing and submitted a bug, and like 8 months later, I get a response, like 3 sentences. Oh yeah, this is deprecated. You know, this is no longer supported. I'm like, why? Like, at least say it in the release notes of the darn program or the operating system, because I can't be the only one who's using this and being like, huh, why is this not working? And what do? I install like Mavericks or something, and it works fine. But no, you just like screw up, Yosemite or whatever El Capitan version it was on, and just don't tell anybody. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but trying to get back to the topic just a little bit here about, do we think that developers are going to actually start optimizing their code, or is it going to be bigger and bigger and gigabytes worth of data we're going to have to download?
Developers are just going to be lazy.
Yeah.
Until customers complain, so some of the software at the company I work at is cloud-based, and all the databases and stuff have to be trimmed and, very fast and sleek and everything. If that is causing customers to complain, then yeah, that will be addressed. But with Adobe, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well,
I agree.
I mean, you look at today's, especially we're talking about, faster computers, more RAM, but also the internet has gotten faster for a lot more people, except for Grudy. The internet has gotten leaps and bounds faster. I mean, I'm on fiber right now, so basically I got 1 gig up, 1 gig down, and
basically you don't.
Well, not here at where my computer's at, no. But I still have 500 up, 500 down. So
there you go.
But
show off.
But that's because the limit of coax cable. But as we get more and more into where fiber is going to get faster and faster, we're going to get to 2 gigabytes. We're going to get to 10 gigabytes. Pretty soon we're going to get to 100 gigabytes download speeds, where basically you can download a file in about 2 seconds, So what does that mean for developers? Oh, well, I can make it, a 20 gigabyte download file. Then that's also going to mean our storage devices are going to have to get huger, or bigger and bigger, because we're going to have places to download that stuff too.
Yeah. I think it's going to be, and I think this is a problem that's going to creep up on us faster than we might think.
Well,
there is no one forcing anyone to
optimize.
To optimize, everybody that currently has a good product has a monopoly. Adobe has a monopoly in the design industry. Final Cut Pro has a pretty big monopoly in the film industry, and all the big software suites that are currently out there have no competition.
Yeah.
So why would they optimize? Just keep schmoozing with the VPs of the hardware and, get.
What is Grudy doing?
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
He's muted too.
I don't know.
I'm actually filming this because I'm filming for the video that I started filming yesterday. This is part of it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
I did not consent to this.
Yeah.
So
hey, Bruce, are you watching the YouTube chat?
Go to
Mac84.net. You started.
What have I done?
Everybody's hating on my drop shadows and my font choices now because of you.
Hey, I like your drop shadows, man.
That's fine. I can't be blamed for that.
I think you need more bevel than a boss.
But just quickly with the developer thing. I mean, I don't think any developer is consciously saying, "Look, I've got all this space and bandwidth now, so I can get lazy." I just think they're lazy, and that's terrible. It's a terrible thing to say that.
Because he's a developer. That's why.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, it's I don't want to make this sort of terrible sweeping generalization about developers, but what I'm saying is that I don't think they are actually consciously thinking about that. I think they are just doing what they're doing. They're continuing to do what they are doing or have been doing for a long time, and then ultimately that then forces the kind of updates in the hardware, the larger allowances, the faster speeds, all that sort of stuff. I don't think they're actually sitting there going, "Oh, I don't need to worry about this." I think they're just doing what they're doing. And
Yeah, but they're not being bugged by slow performance and all that either, because
No.
especially developers for Adobe and Final Cut, they're working on the latest and greatest hardware. You know, the real optimizations come from the developers that don't have the cash for an iMac Pro, that are still working on a 2015 MacBook Pro or something older. They write something, they're like, "Ooh, this is pretty sluggish. I need," because they're developing it on older hardware.
Yep.
But the
Indie
new guys aren't
developers.
aware.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
I-
everyone's heard
I-
that story about when what's his name, when sort of they were about to release the very first Mac, and Steve Jobs was just unhappy about how slow the Mac booted. And he sort of went back to his developers and made them just do more and more refinements, because he was just saying you're going to be costing so much time for people who buy this product and have to sit there and wait for this slow boot. And he made them go back and rewrite to find more and more efficiency so that the Mac would actually boot up faster. Wouldn't it be nice if there were people chasing that again?
Well,
these
and
days?
that's
Right.
what I was getting at, is that Steve ran a tight ship to get them to do that stuff. There's nobody there to do that anymore, and I think it's just that the more and more processing power we get, the slower. Like for instance, our Mac Pros are not going to last forever. Okay,
Yes, they are.
they're not going to, Jay. So there's going to be like the G5s. They're going to be old, and the software is not going to run on them anymore, because if you refuse to update to Catalina, of course, then newer stuff's not going to run on Mojave pretty soon. But it's the same. It goes on and on and on, and you're going to have developers that are going to sit there and say, okay, we're going to cut off, like for instance, all our PowerPCs, can't run the internet efficiently except if we run 10.4 Fox, but it still has its limitations. It runs slow. It's bloated, because basically when you load a page like Facebook, because we looked at the code on a Facebook page one time, and it's huge. It's tons of stuff on there.
And that's just the client side
Yeah.
stuff. Imagine what the server side stuff's like. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you look at some of that stuff and you go like, why? Why do you have all this? And if you dig down into that code, you look at it and you're like, most of this stuff doesn't even need to be there, But because they have the bandwidth now and all the other stuff,
Yeah.
it's like they don't care. It's like, yeah, we
But
could.
it's also, having your fingers in too many pies.
Mhm.
Like when Steve came back to Apple, we all know he axed half or like 80% of everything and just started focusing on a few things. Now, Apple is into TV shows with gaming.
Music.
They have 45 different types of watches, 27 MacBook Pros. They're all over the place. They never axe any product.
Nope.
And how are you going to focus your developers and your teams on making something really good when they have to make a whole bunch of stuff?
It's starting to remind you of 1996's Apple.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, what the only difference I think between 1996's Apple and this Apple is they probably have more people at the company, because they have that whole other building now.
The
Yeah.
spaceship.
There's probably a lot more people, but there's also probably a lot more teams and groups. And going back to Jay's point, I think that Apple is so secretive that we've all heard the stories of, well, I was working on the software for the iPhone, but I didn't even know it was for the iPhone. That you're still going to have these problems of people not doing something more collaboratively, and the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and this is kind of causing a problem. Now, I don't necessarily think that Apple's entry into like the music and the movie stuff or TV stuff is having as much an effect on it. Yeah, sure, maybe it is, but I think that those are sort of like, I think of those as like separate companies, and I would not be surprised at all if Apple split those off into like a separate company, just for tax reasons or whatever the heck, just to be like, oh yeah, that's our production company, this is our electronics company.
Yeah. So somebody's saying that Safari. Okay, Brock is saying Safari is using 8 gigabytes as he watches this show. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. The code.
Firefox
Yeah.
is using a gig
Yeah.
right now on mine.
Well, I can't measure Firefox. I have like 16 windows with 45 tabs in each.
I only have
Uh,
one window open.
My Chrome is using 72 megabytes, so I have no idea what the heck you guys are doing.
My Skype right now is using 630 megs.
Yeah, but
I'm using 48 megabytes
I
on Skype.
might. Okay, but here's the thing though: is I might like that you're using that much, but I'm not giving Google all my information, so I refuse to use Chrome.
They've already got
Information-
it. Trust me,
yeah,
they've already got it.
They've already got it, and I'm giving them. They're giving us views then. If
Well,
their bot is
it's
crawling our
pretty much
YouTube
because
page. There you
YouTube
go.
is a Google product,
And
so
we're exactly, and we're
Yeah.
screaming, "Hi, Google! Don't demonetize us!"
well, we're not even monetized yet, so hey.
Well, by the time they watch this, the joke's
Yeah,
lost.
exactly. All right, guys.
I'm using 1.5 gigs on Skype, so you know.
Yeah, I'm only
Just-
I'm only at 12 gigabytes.
I have to pull up my
Next 12 hours is us
I have
comparing memory
to
sizes.
pull up my activity monitor here, so we're gonna see what I have for Skype. And I'm probably using a lot
Skype.
more because
Oh yeah, because there's Skype renderer, there's Skype helper, there's Skype helper renderer. Oh, I'm using probably 700 megs then.
yeah. Okay, the Skype. Okay, first off, my Skype helper is using 456 megabytes.
sounds
Skype
about right.
itself is using 81 megabytes. But then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 helpers. I have 2 renderers.
You need a lot of help.
I have 2 renderers, a GPU, and 2 helpers just with nothing. So let me see what's using the most memory right now on my computer. OBS is actually using the most right now at 1.16 gigabytes.
Oh, that's a pig.
But it's doing something. So
YouTube, my on Safari is using 1.11 gigabytes, and I have Facebook on one of the tabs open, and it's using 568.2 megabytes. So YouTube and OBS are the 2 hogs of my memory right now.
Yeah, which is ridiculous.
Yep.
Like on most Macs that we have, our maximum RAM is 16 gigs, right, for most MacBook Pros and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Like, you can barely run Skype and your operating system side by side. You're done.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Yeah, this poor mini's choking.
I mean, right now
well, it's a 2014.
my memory pressure is
What it does.
barely showing green, so my memory pressure is good, but I'm using only 15.2 gigabytes of memory used right now. The app memory is at 13 gigabytes, wired memory is at 2.27. So,
It's
Yeah.
sad when games are more efficient than desktop apps.
It is.
Well, I think the gaming industry suffers from it too, but less. They still somewhat care.
well, they have to
To
optimize.
optimize.
Because they want to reach the maximum amount of people they can. So they want to
Yeah.
make sure that the stuff works on older stuff. However, they've actually been forcing a lot of people to upgrade their graphics. That's the big bottleneck in most games nowadays is the graphics,
True.
not the CPU.
But in some games, it makes sense because the way they coded it as well as they could. They did a good job, but it uses so much of the modern features that it requires a card that has more horsepower.
It's no
There
like
is
easy.
definitely a
iRacing.
demand though for that. I mean, the customers are asking for more pizzazz, more wow, all that sort of
And there's
stuff
a
when they're going to
cost to
games.
that,
yeah.
There's if they're trying to get money out of someone to buy a particular game, there's got to be a hook. There's got to be a reason for someone to go in and buy it. When it comes to, for me, if I'm using InDesign and it's bloated and slow, I've got no choice. I mean, if I'm going to open up an InDesign file, I need InDesign. But when it comes to a game, if that experience isn't wow, someone will just buy the next game. What I mean?
Right.
It's sort of
Yep.
A different culture. I think,
Well,
with that sort of thing.
I mean, the gaming industry's kind of been stagnant for a while too. I mean, the first-person shooters are just pretty much all the same. I mean, you get like Fortnite or PUBG.
Fortnite.
They're pretty much the same. It's just Fortnite.
It's not a UT 2004.
No, it's not.
Though. I'm
It's
sorry. I know, it's not as
Yeah.
good.
But you think back, all those first-person shooters started from one game, and everybody know what
Yeah.
that is? No. Wolfenstein 3D was the very first.
Wolfenstein 3D. That was, I
Wolf
was using that
3D.
before
Yep.
too. Yeah.
Rocky, it came out a year
Yep.
before Doom did.
It was the very first
Id
first-person
Software
shooter.
developed it first. And
I played
technically, it
both.
wasn't the first-person shooter, first-person shooter, but it was the one that started popularizing it. Then Doom came out.
And then Quake, I think, came out after, and then Unreal, and they just kept making more and more. And
The only game
As
that
we
matters.
forget about
Yeah.
Marathon.
Oh, Marathon's great.
so, anyways, I think we're going to go ahead and move on to our next topic here. I think
Sounds
we
about right.
beat this one down. Yeah.
A little bit.
All right, so we were talking about today's Macs that we have, okay? For instance, every one of us here now has a Mac Pro, at least 4.1, 5. Well, actually, I just call them 5.1s because basically they're all the same. I mean, there's no difference between them except that the 4.1 models have delidded CPUs versus, lidded CPUs. That's the only difference. They have the same. Well, actually, you can't even use a 4.1 tray in a 5.1 and vice versa.
You just keep backtracking.
No. But they're the same. It's just that the way that
Well, the
the
hardware-
hardware is kind of coded
Yeah.
to each other. That's the only difference. But they're pretty much exactly the same.
Yep.
The question we have, though, is these Macs that we own today, for instance, the Pros, will they become collectible one of these days? Like I have sitting behind me back here, a flower pot or a lampshade, whatever you want to call it, iMac G4, which I consider that a collectible because it's unique.
I think they will be in the same category as a G3 beige, but more or less the G5 is going to wind up in the category of a 9600 or something of an era where it was a little bit, it's hard to say because the G3 was a little bit of a hidden gem in the beige, but
I think it's going to be more of the unique systems, and if they don't continue on to the next generation, like the 2018 Mac Mini comes in space gray, it looks pretty neat. And say the new Mac Pro doesn't have a continuation of it, it will be collectible.
well, what
The
about
trash
the
can, on the
2008?
other hand, you could use it.
Yeah, I
as
was gonna
trash
say.
can.
I don't think any of today's Macs are going to be around long enough to become collectible.
Yeah, they'll
mean,
probably
you
be
pick
way
up a-
broken before
You
then.
pick up a 9500, you can recap it. You pick up a Plus, you can recap it. You pick up a 2016 MacBook Pro 10 years from now, you're not going to recap it. The screen is delaminated, the keyboard is effed, the trackpad is broken, everything is exploded,
The battery.
What are you going to collect? Scrap metal?
Yes.
Will that then launch a sort of an industry of third-party manufacturers making replacement parts for these things?
I
If
I'd
people
like to
want
see a
collect them.
trash can upgrade scene. That'd be kind of interesting. Kind of like the G4, the little
cube?
G4
Yeah.
cubes. It'll be
Yeah.
like the next generation cube.
But
or
I
something.
think that, to be honest with you, I don't even think the new Mac Pros are going to be collectible. They're just too plain looking. It's not like the Cube was,
unless you
or-
want to go to IKEA and buy
or
a cheese
the
grater.
iMac G4, or even the.
Apple hardware hasn't had personality in over
Yeah.
a decade.
Yeah.
I don't look at my Mac Pro and that's a sexy computer. I mean, it's a good looking
Yeah,
machine.
you do. Don't
but
lie.
Not like my MDD. It's the MacBook Pro looks nice.
It's literally been a decade since Apple stopped selling. The last model came out of a polycarbonate machine, and that was the last real. The MacBook was the last real unique system.
But even
the rest of them.
Even these are not that collectible. I mean, I have a couple of them,
no,
and I
they're
just
not.
I
doesn't.
agree.
I-
But it was unique. Now all systems are just aluminum slabs, and that's the way it's been for 10 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think the
Yeah, I
last
don't think there's
special
anything
Mac,
special.
though. Yeah, but I think personally, I'm sorry, Steve, but I think personally, the G4 Cube and the iBook were now I'm talking the fruity, wonderful iBook G3s and stuff that had the handle, that
The
beautiful,
clamshell.
wonderful machine. Yeah, the clamshell. I think those two machines were the last of the unique Macs to ever be made. Other than, I mean, if you want to call it, I think the trash can will be collectible because it was unique and silly.
Well, you're forgetting about the iMac G4, Rocky. That's pretty unique too.
Yeah, you're correct on that. I did forget about that. You are right.
But yeah, I definitely agree with you, Rocky, that I think the trash can, despite all of the flaws that it has, I think that will definitely be something that becomes collectible in time for that reason.
Possibly.
They may not work, but I think they'll become collectible.
Yeah,
Like,
it
Well,
could
I'll
be
have
the,
one on my shelf one day.
yeah,
not gonna
it's
use
going
it,
to be
but-
the next Apple III. You watch.
Yes, yes. That's right.
It'll be the next 20th anniversary Mac right there.
Well, Londo
Without the
says
limousine delivering it. You know?
he says honestly, the Apple displays will be more collectible than the computers. I don't think their new displays are going to be, because it's basically it looks like the Mac Pro pretty much. It doesn't look
Kinda
like
ugly.
Yeah, it's square.
It's
well,
neat
even
looking,
the
but
previous
ugly.
generation displays, the Thunderbolt and the LED displays, they're nothing special.
Yeah.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
They
the
look like,
design is not
the
great.
iMac.
The I/O is not great. There's nothing great about
The
it.
only thing that they had going for them is they were ahead their time in resolution back then.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're just a monitor.
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather collect the plastic ones, the polycarbonate ones,
Mm-hmm.
than I don't even like the aluminum ones that came after. I
Yeah.
have two of them. I want to sell them, get rid of them, because I'm never going to use them. So,
But I mean, I guess any sort of collecting, it's often driven by a level of nostalgia. I think certainly with computers,
And
the
just
computers,
preference and taste.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the computers that I collect are different to the computers that you guys collect. I mean, I sort of I don't have any of the the G4 towers, like the Mirror Drive door and the Sawtooth and all those ones. I don't have any of those at all. I mean, yes, I did have some and I gave them away, but my collection of like 68K Macs is something that's for me is nostalgic. I get hold of one, install a system on it, play around with an old game or something like that. I mean, I love doing that. I don't have that same nostalgic link. And I guess that if we're thinking into the future, if you've got someone in particular, maybe of a particular age group now they might be using a unibody Mac laptop, and years to come it might be something that's out of their price range. In years to come, they'll be able to pick one up for sort of $20 on eBay or something like that, and go and relive that past.
yeah,
So
same as we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
Now,
I was
actually,
surprised.
sorry, go ahead, Steve.
No, just I was surprised because I keep talking about this iMac G3 that I have here, and I was surprised that this thing got so much attention, because to me it's like, oh, it's an iMac, but like someone who grew up with using that as like their first computer, like, oh wow, like it has much more impact than it would to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I was gonna say, something that I was reminded of when you were talking about that, Bruce. I also collect a lot of 68Ks because for the same reason, and early PowerPCs. My first computer was an LC3 Plus, and and I collected from then on. But if you really think about it, you go back to that era, you had a certain cookie cutter design to every one of those Macs that existed from around the early 90s through the G3 era, because even the G3 tower was a 9600 tower basically with G3 hardware. So they were
A
all
shorter
cookie cutter.
9600.
True. But they were all pretty cookie cutter. You had your Performance, you had theirs. I mean, they had 100 different names for these things, but they came in, just a cookie cutter set of cases for the longest time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true.
They actually kind of looked like normal beige PCs with an Apple logo on them, really.
Yeah.
Yes, but
More
that was
rounded pieces.
back in the days when Apple had definitely lost its mojo.
Yeah.
I mean, again, just sort of relating back to some of the stuff we were talking about before. I mean, apparently when Steve Jobs came back, one of the first things he said is, "Look, how does a customer even know which computer is best suited to them?" There are, we've got a line of 30 or 40 computers that they can choose from. How is anyone supposed to know which of those 30 or 40? And we're talking about a significant investment for most people buying a brand new computer. How am I supposed to know which of those is best for me? And to some extent, they're falling into that trap again now.
Yeah, the same applies today. Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd say today the only thing that's different is Apple is profitable and healthy, whereas before with all the Centruses and the Quadros and the Performas and the LCs and this and that, Apple was, you would hear the stories. I think Steve Jobs would say that Macworld, or it was in the press or whatever, that your normal person selling a computer at CompUSA, which is one of the stores at the time, at least here in the U.S., would not know the difference between one model or the next because there maybe was only a software difference or there was a price difference. I have fond memories of going to a CompUSA and some lady was interested in an iBook and there was nobody staffing the Apple section and she said, does it have a FireWire port on it, to this guy? And the guy's like, oh, I don't know. And I go, yeah, there's one right here. And I think that was just a problem they had back then is people didn't really care. Now it seems to be popular. So at least, yes, they're falling into the same problems of, hey, we have a bunch of different machines. But I think that the improvements in their supply chain manufacturing wing of things have gotten to the effect where they can afford to have multiple machines as long as they finally control some things. And I guess they're profitable enough to slip up every now and again. No one's gonna, weep that what was it, the MacBook that they came out with that was just like this gold colored one that really was like bad in comparison to every other machine that they had.
Yeah, because they had no fan.
No one's gonna, no one's gonna care
The
that's
12-inch MacBook shall go down in history as one of the worst flops.
That watch in like 10 years you're going to see all these YouTubers be like Apple's coolest laptop.
Actually, I do see
require
it,
a fan.
even though it was a very crappy machine, I do see it actually being one of those collectible Macs in the future.
Yeah, probably because nobody bought the damn thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Lemons become collectible. It's just always the way it is.
I honestly think there's not going to be any 12-inch MacBooks left. The amount I see on a daily basis that are fried, they fry themselves. The SSD will stop working. The power circuit dies. And logic board repair is not even worth it. We scrap so many of those damn things every day.
But that's the same thing that happened with the G4 cubes and stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but people
G4 cubes have become very collectible.
But people have figured out ways to keep those going. But the Mac, like I think Jay was talking about, the MacBooks are just the logic boards are just not worth it. It's like
until someone comes up with a fan mod.
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Well, I remember when Linus got one of the very first ones. He actually water cooled it by setting it down in water.
Yeah, I cringe.
He had it in a plastic bag, though. I will note that.
Yeah, one little pinhole leak and you're screwed.
Yeah.
Try explaining that to
answer the topic. Mostly, I would say no.
I think you're right. I think some of the newer stuff. I think like you said, the last ones that were collectible probably were the polycarbonate stuff. The G4s pretty much, because even the G5s are
kind of boring.
They're like the pros, I mean, they got the same exact case.
Slightly remarkable if you get the liquid cooled ones,
Yeah.
I think the G5s are going to be way more collectible later because they're going to become extremely rare because everybody thinks they're nothing now.
Yeah.
I did buy one of the rarest G5s. It's so neat.
Ah, it's a rare one, huh?
Yeah, because
it's mint, except
actually, when it comes in the mail, it might be pretty mint. It looks really mint in the pictures, but it's so neat because it's got the logic board in it was based off of an iMac, and this thing is known as one of the crappiest G5 towers ever built. But it's so neat because it has no front fans. And like I said, the logic board's basically an iMac board with some PCI slots in it.
Oh, I see. I think James has one of those. One of our Mac Yackers has one of those.
Is it?
We had
it's an early one or a later one?
On Facebook, was like, hey, why is my front fan missing? And we found out it never had one.
Yeah. Yeah, I found one and I bought it, and it is just no one bought them because everyone knew it was very underpowered. Because I believe the bus speed runs at 1/3 speed, like on an iMac. So it makes it, even though it's a 1.8, and they did make 1.6 G5 towers. Even though it's a 1.8, I think it's slower than the 1.6 G5 towers.
Was this like the low end option when they had the dual core systems out, or
Yeah, it
okay,
came out.
that would explain it.
I think it was a mid '04 model.
We
have been
have an
educational,
abundance
too.
of these iMac circuit boards. What do we do? I have an idea.
Exactly. Exactly. So they just
True.
somehow jerry rigged some PCI slots on it and made it fit into a G5 case. The case
Let me get
is
a
even,
pen here. Power Mac. There we
Yeah.
go. We're good.
the case is even proprietary to that logic board. You can't put a better logic board into the case.
Huh. I have a
So-
1.8. I wonder if it's the same one that you have.
Yeah, the one day those might actually have some value to them.
Now-
Right now, they're not worth
Now,
anything.
Michael Bird in the chat goes, he got his 2007 Mac Pro custom painted. He said, totally refreshes this older system, makes me want to use it more and more. I don't know.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, I was gonna say blasphemy, but
I've seen
I've seen a
some
few
neat
cool
ones.
ones. If you have
Yeah.
those matte black powder.
oh
coats
yeah,
on
those
Mac
look
Pro, they
cool. Those
really
look
sick.
really
Well,
good. Yeah.
For example, Mike gave me I think it's a G5 case, and this thing is scratched to Kingdom Come. If someone were to paint that, I wouldn't feel bad because it looks like garbage now anyway.
Yeah.
So
But
maybe sanding it down and putting paint over it may be
Oh,
nice.
have
What
you
about
seen
that,
the mirrored
that mirror
one?
mod?
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I didn't
that's
see that.
sick.
Polished
I will
ones.
agree with that.
Yeah.
I will agree with that. That's sick.
where they
yeah.
sit there and polished aluminum to those look nice too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they look cool.
Uh,
Good luck with the fingerprints on it, though.
so his
Yeah,
Michael
They
Michael
apparently don't have a 4-year-old in their house.
okay Michael says his computer's orange and green FAMU colors.
That's unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna
That's
go with the
unique.
blasphemy on this one. Sorry.
But
But expanding on this topic a little, what do you think the future is of prototypes? Are we going to see as many as we see now from the PowerPC era
No.
and early Intels?
no.
Yeah, I think Apple's really been more secretive with that, and I'm sure if we ask Hap or anybody else like that, I know I've seen prototypes of like the Core 2 Duo stuff, but I think really after that early Intel phase where they were transitioning into different form factors and stuff, like I've seen a prototype MacBook Air, seen a prototype Core 2 Duo, polycarbonate one, but yeah, I just think it's the increase of security and stuff like that, and probably that there's not much to design anymore.
Well, there
Yeah.
there was a prototype for iPhone 4 out there at one time. Remember?
Yeah, I forgot about the iPhone devices, but yeah, I guess that's one way to go.
Well, I mean,
also.
no. I'm saying the one that got left at a bar before they even released
Oh,
the
yeah.
iPhone.
Oh, yeah, that
Yeah.
one.
Remember that?
Uh,
Steve Jobs, I want my phone back. Would you want to be on the other side of that phone call? No.
By
I
the
would've been
way,
like, "There you go."
the guy that lost that phone didn't get fired by Apple. He continued to work at Apple.
Yeah, he's still cleaning toilets.
No, he's still there. I don't know if he's still there, but he was still there when that happened. And you can actually, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's got a Facebook profile and everything.
This is Facebook.
Very
tag
interesting.
says I'm the guy who lost the iPhone.
Yeah, there you go.
I bet you
No,
I bet
I
you they never let him test anymore.
Probably
No, I
not.
have to say, like Apple and other
He
companies,
gets a
they've
G4
done,
to work on, and that's it.
well, like a lot of companies, they've done a lot to lock their stuff down, and then they probably shred their prototypes now and stuff like that. The problem is, companies are forgetting one thing that made them great. What made Apple great? What allowed Apple to survive in the 90s?
The people that
loyalty.
stuck with them through the crappy times.
Yep.
Yeah, it's brand loyalty. And
Yep.
I mean, what kept General Motors alive? Brand loyalty and the government. But anyway, so
But
sorry,
sorry to
GT, you
interrupt.
might have bought a no, anyway.
You made a rant not too long ago on your YouTube, a giant rant about how you were never going to buy Apple, touch Apple, look at Apple, smell Apple, or even lick an Apple.
Unless
and you're
they
still
fixed
using
it.
Mac products.
You're not
still
wrong.
using their operating system. You got a brand new used 4.1. You're still here. It's hard to walk away, even if they screw us.
It is.
Yep.
You are not wrong.
Yep.
Yep.
That I have to agree with.
But-
Once you get stuck in
Yeah.
the ecosystem, it's hard to get out of it.
But
Yeah.
that's the thing. They're making an ecosystem now instead of making brand loyalty. You don't want to be loyal to the brand anymore. They don't make that a priority. They don't make things that we want, that are of quality, that we want to support. I mean, we're walking slowly away from the brand, even though we want to be loyal to it. We're loyal to it not because it's great now. We're loyal to it because it was great.
Yeah.
And we want them to come back to being great.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though, but they still have one of the highest customer satisfaction levels
Yes.
of a computer maker, don't they?
They do.
They do.
Yeah. Okay.
Because they actually do
Why?
have.
Yeah, that shows you
Well,
how the
I want to know
benchmark's
how they
set.
measure that stuff, because I don't think
Well,
it's
here's the
as
thing.
rosy as
okay?
they paint it.
Here's the thing, though, is that
I agree with Jay on that.
if you look at a lot of Apple's customers today, not like us, okay, because we're pretty well versed in Apple and stuff, and we know how the operating system works and everything. But you get their basic customers that use Apple products. Okay, they don't know their iPhone from a hole in the ground. Okay, so
You're not wrong.
they go in there because I work at Best Buy and I see people go to Geek Squad every day because to set their computers up. I saw someone get
Geek Squad is not GT.
This is-
GT is not Geek
No.
Squad. Everybody needs to know that.
exactly, but
He wouldn't be here if he was.
I saw this couple come in, buy an iMac, 21.5 inch iMac, and had Geek Squad set it up for them. How sad is that? I mean, an iMac is easy to set up. It tells you what to do when you turn it on.
Well, some people are just so worried that, like, oh, that's complicated.
Yeah,
I don't want to deal with that.
yeah.
That's sad.
It
But
is,
yeah,
but
how-
hey, you're
how
going to
are
make
you
a
gonna
buck out of
measure-
it.
How are you going to measure
Maybe I'll do
customer
it.
satisfaction if the majority of your user base only checks Facebook on that $2,000
That's
device?
exactly what I'm talking about.
They are not the pro users that used to use these products. They don't find the bugs because they're not using it hard enough
Exactly.
to find those bugs.
True.
So I think that whole customer
That's why I think the customer
satisfaction thing is just as much bogus as their whole green
That's
thing.
the reason why I think
you
the
know?
customer satisfaction thing is kind of bogus, because you get those type of customers that, as long as it's working for what they want to do, they're happy with it. But when we dig
Yeah.
down into
Oh.
the weeds, we find stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, my grandma thinks Mac is wonderful now. I swapped her over to it. She's still using El Capitan, and she loves it.
And you know how
I
this
did all
stuff is
set up for
measured?
her.
When I got my Apple Watch, 2 days later, I get an email from Apple with a survey. Hey, how do you like it? I had a list of complaints 2 days in, but
My-
most people are like, "Oh, I can see the time. Oh, look at those rings. I love it." Another happy
It tells
customer.
the time.
By the time they find the bug a few months in, that survey is already sent, and
Where's that
you got a
survey?
happy customer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
My grandmother, my uncle switched my grandmother over from a PC to a 27-inch late 2009 iMac back in the day. He bought it brand new. She used it to the day she died. She loved the thing. And she died, how old was she? She was 83 when she died.
Wow.
Apple software is easy to learn and use, and that does keep a lot of loyalty to people.
Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. We're getting close to our 2-hour mark. We got 20 minutes left, I think. So,
Yeah.
well, we only got one left, Jay, but we have some other sections to go through. So, the next topic is something we kind of saw what was it, a video on, or who saw this one about the progress bar not being user friendly enough? In other words,
Yeah, so there's a article that I linked there.
There
So
Oh, there is.
I could talk about it, but
yeah.
I don't know if you were segueing.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so there's this interesting article, and if someone wants to go ahead and put that in the chat,
I see
'cause
somebody
I'm-
already highlighting it. So
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I got you.
Thank you. So, what's interesting about this article, I mean, we've all, assuming the majority of our viewers have used at least a few different versions of Mac OS 10 and have seen things a little bit differently over the years. Um, this article is interesting. It goes into a friend of the author doing an update on his Mac and something just like taking longer than usual, and then all of a sudden they have to reboot or they forced it to reboot and the whole thing is just garbage and they had to restore from a backup. And what the moral of the story is the guy is saying that these updates and such are getting to such a state where the UI and the information that is being presented to the user is so minimalistic that you have no idea what the system is doing. You don't know what step of the progress it's in. You don't know if it got stuck, if it's still actually working, or if it's frozen. You don't know if what step of the progress is. Is it just loading? Is it installing? Is it optimizing? Is it cleaning up? And it just gives you a progress bar and it'll say a time, and that's it. And what the article goes into some interesting detail of, how they think they can improve these things and stuff. And I just completely agreed and thought this was something that was interesting, at least, to me, because I think we've all been there where we're doing something and if the UI does not tell you what step it's in, you may
Yeah.
just get frustrated and unplug it or power it off or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Good
And
I mean,
I think-
particularly if a progress bar moves across to a certain point and then just stops
yes,
and
Yes.
stays in the one spot for ages and ages and ages. And I mean, that defeats
Yeah.
the purpose of a progress bar, in my opinion.
And
Well-
Apple has
Yes.
always been crap at progress bars.
Yeah.
Yes.
Always. But you used to
Always.
have tools to help you out. You would
Well-
set
But
up
are
the
you
clock.
saying
You would
Microsoft
set
has a
up,
good progress bar?
You
Well-
would set up the clock to use seconds, make sure it didn't freeze. You could
Yeah.
listen to the hard drive to make sure it was still
Yeah,
doing
yes.
something. You had status lights to tell.
Bringing
now
back
it's
memories
just a
here.
black screen with a white bar.
Yeah.
And like the article says, about 40 minutes remaining. Okay.
you come back
What does
40
that
minutes
tell me?
later and it still says about 40 minutes
About
remaining.
40 minutes.
Yeah, and, that's
Or
right.
it says-
and at what point do you decide that it has failed, or if it's just doing its thing? I
Right.
mean,
Yeah.
that's like you hear a story about someone who restarts it, and then someone says, "Oh no, that one just takes a really long time. You just got to go away and leave it." And how are you supposed to know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's a good
And that
point.
comes from experience of dealing with those crappy progress bars. I know that when
Yes,
I do a
that's right.
security update, my screen goes black for about 10 minutes while
Well-
it's doing something.
well-
and I got a Mac Flash GPU.
Well,
I
here's
can
the
see the boot screen.
Yeah.
So what the hell?
But here's my thing. I don't have a Mac Flash GPU, so therefore I see a black screen. I don't see a progress bar until it just
Yeah.
pops back up. So
Now, if you
He's
guys
crossed his fingers
remember,
for 20
I
minutes.
asked you guys when I was updating the firmware on my 4.1, I was like, is it supposed to sit here for 5 minutes on finish?
it's the same
And you're
thing, yeah.
like, oh, you kind of want to reboot that. It got stuck. So-
Yeah, and a few people in the chat use the same trick that I use, and probably a lot of us. When there's a progress bar, you position your mouse cursor there.
Yeah.
But you have no
Doing that
mouse
for ages,
cursor
yeah.
on most Apple
Well,
updates.
not on the. On
That's
the
when
boot
you get a
screen
post-it
installs.
note and put it on the
That's what
screen.
he was. Yeah,
Yeah.
someone.
Yeah.
But
Love you,
here's
Steve.
here's the thing. Okay, you do that. You put the post-it note on there. You go away. You come back half an hour later and it hasn't moved. You're still faced with the same quandary. Has
reboot
it
it?
frozen? Am I going to wreck it when I restart it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Apple and progress bars has never been ever.
They
been
become like
accurate.
Microsoft now.
Yeah.
Well, I've had it since 8.6. My first Mac OS was 8.6. I'm sure I used something older in school, but when you copy a file, when you download a file, when you do anything that involves a progress bar, it's never been accurate, ever.
Yep.
True. But you got happy once you got about 2/3 of the way in. You're like, it'll actually finish. If it only got to half and it's stuck, you're like, nah, it's broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the solution? What should they
The
do?
solution, and the guy even said that in the article, was basically put a little, text underneath the bar saying what it's doing at the time. Saying like, okay, we're installing this module at this time, and then it switches to when it's starting the next module. Okay, put under there, it's going to say, hey, this is going to take a while. Let it run, so users don't just do what that one guy did and just reboot and trash the
Yep.
system.
And this all goes to the, I don't know, iOSification of macOS in this case. I don't want to see just a progress bar with the estimated time. I want to see what it's doing, installing packages, optimizing the system, doing stuff.
Was it
I
OS
agree.
8 when you were copying files that you would just come up with a progress bar and then you could press a button that would make the little progress bar open
Oh,
up
the details. Yeah.
to show you
Yes.
the details? So that's sort of
Yep.
what we need is if someone wants to just see the
Microsoft
line,
still does that.
press
Yeah.
the details button and then give you more information if you want it.
Like they
thought
keep
Mac
making
OS
it
does that, though,
simpler
too.
because they think people, and I guess people are scared of the current technology, judging from what GT said. But I want to know. I want to know what my computer is doing.
Oh.
So give me an option. Don't dumb it down.
To the lowest
For
common
all-
denominator.
Yeah, for all the
Exactly.
not idiots out there.
So did they eliminate the details tab in Mojave and Catalina?
You talking about for the when you're updating?
No, when you're copying and stuff like that, did they eliminate that? Because I still have that in 1013.
Oh, that's a good question. I haven't even paid any attention.
What are you
to
talking
that.
about when
Probably
you're
still
taking
I
a
haven't
file
paid
and
attention
copying?
either.
Let
When
me
you're
try.
copying a file and it gives you the whole details section,
Yes.
you click on it and gives
It's
you the
gone.
details.
I'm on
Is that-
Mojave and it's gone. It says copying 2 items to desktop, and you just get how many gigabytes of how many gigabytes total, about a minute remaining.
And then
Oh,
it says how
hell,
many.
so they
And if you
dropped
copy,
that
and if you
in
copy,
Mojave then.
but if you copy like a directory with 1,000 files in it, it tells you, okay, 900 files, 7. It counts down the number of files.
Yeah, but I can get the full readout of what's going on in 1013 and older.
Nope, not anymore.
Huh.
They dumbed it
I
down.
didn't notice
13
that was
and older.
gone.
We're not deemed
Apple
smart
giveth
enough
and
to have
Apple
that
taketh
information.
away. Yeah, you're not redacted.
Redact it.
Free NVIDIA support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have NVIDIA support, you don't get this feature.
That'll be the day.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I just noticed in High Sierra it's like that too. It just says the time.
It is? I
Yeah.
thought it was detailed.
No, I'm
Okay,
on High
I'm
Sierra right
wrong.
now, copying something and it just.
Everybody back to 10.4.
Yeah.
Yep. Let me get my discs.
10.1.
I've tried
there
that.
you
know,
There's not
right?
enough software for it.
Ah, come on.
I will find a way.
Yeah.
Let's just go to
Picky.
versiontracker.com and yeah.
All right, guys. So let's go ahead and move on to our next. Let's see. I think we finished all our topics tonight. So next one is news and announcements. So the first one is Apple addresses iPhone 11 location privacy concern. Who put that in there? Because
I did.
Okay, I'll let you talk about it then.
A while ago, there was a feature discovered in the new iPhone 11s that even if you disabled all the system services for location tracking, it was still tracking your location. And Apple said, "Oh, this is because we use what do they call it? Ultra wideband, and that's not allowed everywhere. So we have to track you to make sure you're not in an area where we use it, so the phone can disable it." Complete bullshit, of course, but that's just me. So now, of course, because of public pressure, Apple has finally decided to, in the next version of iOS 13, they're already testing it in the beta, you can actually turn that off. So,
I have to
Yeah.
try that on my iPad then, because I have the beta on my iPad. So
I don't know if
Turn it off.
your iPad has that ultra wideband
we'll see.
feature. So, but yeah, something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
If you have an
Dana.
iPhone 11,
Dana says ultra wideband is a fancy way of saying lies.
They didn't specify which ultra wideband. It's the ultra wideband that puts information back from you to Apple.
yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
So if you have an iPhone 11, keep an eye out for the next software update. And if you are in any way privacy conscious, then
Yep.
you might want to install it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just readjust my tinfoil hat, and there we go.
All right. Next item is 36 years ago yesterday, on January 22nd, 1984, Apple aired its infamous 1984 ad for the Macintosh. I was half tempted to play it again today, but we played it in episode 9. So if you want to go back and watch it, it's in episode 9. So
Yeah, we might save it for the 40th anniversary
yeah,
in 40 years.
in 4 years we might save it for that. Yeah, you're right, because that'll be 40 years that the Macintosh has been around.
Jeez.
It's been
I
that
feel
long.
old.
Yeah, me too.
You feel old. You're like 2-3 years younger than me.
That means you're even older, brother.
You're not wrong.
Oh boy. Yeah, it's interesting because they, if you remember, in 2004 they updated that ad. Apple re-released it with the woman having an iPod on her hip and earbuds in her ears. And I actually have a poster that a friend of mine who worked at Apple back in the day sent me, because they had a promotional poster of her running with the sledgehammer and the Macintosh shirt, and she has the iPod on her hip and the earbuds in her ear, and it says, there's an Apple logo in the corner. It says 84 to 04, and it's pretty neat. It's sitting in my
Yeah,
office
pretty.
upstairs. But it's funny because I was reading up a little bit about that ad, and people were like, "Oh, it only aired once." But I think for them to qualify for like an advertisement award type thing, they had to play it at least a few times. And so at like 1 a.m. at some public access TV channel, they aired it again. And it was apparently so popular, some theaters actually played versions of it. It's interesting. I mean, I don't think that the advertising, although creative, I don't think it's as interesting as some of the older ads that we used to get from Apple.
So since we're talking about ads there, my favorite ones that Apple did was the I'm a PC, I'm a Apple.
Oh,
those were good.
Those were some of the more creative ones, because it was less of a buy this product versus a, hey, we're poking some fun at
Microsoft,
this
And all of the
They
stuff
were
they
actually
poking
worth
fun
watching.
at is now
And-
what we're doing.
Yeah.
Can you believe about the PC and Mac videos that they actually produced it was an astronomical number of them,
There's
but
a
Steve
lot.
Jobs
Yeah.
could only approve a few of them.
Yeah.
So there
Huh,
is a
I
ton
never
of
heard about
them
that.
in some archive somewhere that we'll probably never see the light of day.
Unless that hard drive mysteriously makes its way out of Apple's
Yeah,
vault
because
somewhere.
there's
I'd like
hundreds of
prototype
them
hardware.
out there that he wouldn't approve.
I always like the one
Yeah,
where it's
thank you.
hi, and like accept or
Yeah,
deny.
cancel or allow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cancel or allow, that's the one. And
Yeah,
now,
that's right.
if you want to
That was
install
funny.
a font
Yeah.
or even click something, you have to enter your password 6 times. You know?
Or
the
if
ones
you
where,
want to
Macs
use,
don't get viruses. Hello, we get plenty.
well, how about
You know?
how about where you actually, when you install a third party that's not from the App Store, you have to
Yeah.
go into security to allow it. It's like, hello.
Yeah,
But here's the real interesting thing about, of course, that original 1984 ad is that whole ad was based around, IBM being Big Brother,
Yep.
the Apple's the smaller, newer, more agile way of doing things.
Yeah.
And of course, now look at what Apple is today.
Yeah.
And
Well, look at
and it just becomes so ironic.
well, look at the
Yeah.
G5. The G5 was run with an IBM PowerPC.
Yep.
I
that's right.
still want an IBM PowerPC. Thank you very much.
Some of the G3s were too.
Well, some, but a lot of them were still Motorola at the time. But
Yeah.
And all processors before that were toss up between IBM and Motorola, except for the 68Ks.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
The
Yeah,
AIM
I think-
Alliance.
I think I always thought, like, when I was younger, that when the Super Bowl was coming around, oh, Apple's gonna do a big thing for their 25th anniversary or whatever. And no, they don't do that anymore. It's kind of sad, but it's
They better do it now because
no,
the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl.
all of Apple's ads now are just, oh, look at our camera, filmed on iPhone and stuff like that. It's like,
yeah.
who cares?
I mean, look, the original sort of iPod ones with the silhouettes dancing and the
oh
white
yeah, those are very
cables,
creative.
they were very well styled. They launched
Yeah.
a lot of bands, a lot of bands that weren't getting much airplay were, sort of suddenly becoming famous because their song was used in the ads and stuff like
I'll
that.
tell
There
you,
was
I
real style
would buy
about those.
songs
Yeah.
off of iTunes because I heard it in the frickin' advertisement.
I did the same.
Yeah.
The
I
ads
think
used to
that-
be good. Like when the
Yeah.
G5 came out, there was one ad where, and you're starting at the back, you're in this living room and you pan out through a hole in the wall, through the kitchen, papers falling down,
Oh, the
ceiling fans
G5
crashing
ad.
down.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
And then-
remember that one.
Yeah, like the
I even had
G5 was
that in one
so
of my
fast, you
videos.
power it on, it would blow a hole in your house
Yeah,
and fly out the
yeah.
door.
I
And
like
the G4 had the one with the tanks because
that.
it was
Yes, that's what I was
so,
Yeah.
gonna say.
and now a new $2,500 piece of crap MacBook Pro comes out. Where are the ads? Nowhere.
Hmm.
Yeah.
They just
Mhm.
expect you to buy it.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah,
you guys
no,
It's got to
remember
work
the,
for him. Come on, show me your cool ass.
You guys
There was,
remember the
I'm sure there was an ad for the touch bar ones, wasn't there? When the touch bars first came out, that we
Yeah, they
certainly got
probably
ads
showed
for them.
emojis
Yeah.
on the stupid touch bar, and that was the ad.
No, I remember they had about 3 ads for the touch bar. None of them were sparkling.
Yeah.
We should
Oh.
do a topic on this next week or sometime where we cover our favorite ads.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe that.
Totally.
Yeah. Actually, that's a pretty.
They're going to be from
Like
a long
the,
time ago. We're going to pull some
I wonder-
out.
Oh, yeah.
The-
Well,
See, I wonder if I could
Well-
pull some of them out and we could play our favorite ads on here.
The unofficial Apple archive that I talked about last week, they have some on there which we talked about already, but I just want to say a tidbit about that. I found what was interesting is I think it was the recent Apple event or WWDC or one of those where they had that. I think the only thing that we agreed on that we liked was that opening montage of all the Apple products and stuff like that. Apparently that was made for an earlier anniversary a few years ago, and it was just never used. And they just updated the products in there slightly, to show, whatever, and they used it this time.
Yeah.
So I'm sure,
Mm.
I have no doubt that there was probably campaigns that were proposed for like Apple's 20th, Apple's 30th, and stuff like that, and they just never, made it anywhere.
Yeah.
Because Apple's probably thinking, you know what, we have press for free from the Wall Street Journal, all these tech companies, talking about Apple or whatever, and we get word of mouth from our loyal fans and whatever. Why should we pay $1 million to, shove this on TV for 30 seconds when we could have advertisements within our iTunes store and stuff like that?
Yep.
But if you think about it, I work in an entire Windows environment, 100%. But the one phone that we use, because the management products that are available and do the best job that we can actually lock them down with Microsoft products, believe it or not, Apple. This is my work phone. That's all we use now because it's the only secure and well done solution that works with Microsoft products. So Apple's got something going for them.
You may not realize this, Rocky, but you just had the most incredibly artistic shot there. As you held the phone up near the camera, there was a reflection of a coloured Apple logo appearing in the reflection of the black Apple logo. So you just created a little.
On my screen.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That was intentional.
For seeing that.
Meme time. Meme time. So everybody go back and
I
click
know,
that.
right? Yeah, because that's beautiful.
All right.
that is neat.
So next up on the list here is Steve with his archive adventures, and according to the banner, it's about something, but no one knows what.
Yeah, this happens very frequently where Jay will be very kind and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "That's a very good question." And you probably saw me drag a scanner over from over there over to here, probably showing my butt for a few seconds. And for the past hour or so, I've been trying to install Adobe CS4 and realized High Sierra doesn't like it. And so that install failed.
What?
So, so now I'm installing it on the Mac Mini running Mavericks because I scanned something and I was going to make a PDF out of it, but cover's blown. So I'm going to talk about a favorite website I like that one of us actually owns. And it is Bruce's website for his recap of Mac, which I found invaluable over the past few weeks.
I wonder why.
Yes, those of you who are probably obliterated by the amount of notifications you've been getting from both myself and Bruce from recapping Macintoshes over the past few weeks, this is the website where Bruce has been kind enough to have a resources tab. And so we both put it in the chat there. But if you click on that resources tab, what is pretty cool is you click on a Mac, like let's say a Macintosh 2, and it runs great on Mojave. You run it on a now I got my words mixed up here. Then you got these little PDF guides you could download, but Bruce will list the capacitor, the value of it, and you'll give a little story about recapping that Macintosh, some things to look out for, which I think is a great resource because yes, there are other websites out there, but their diagrams aren't as large, so it's harder to see some things. And what I liked about Bruce's website here is he has different revisions. So the Macintosh 2 has a revision A and a revision B, and you can easily get screwed up by following an old guide or just reading a forum post where someone's like, oh yeah, here are the caps or whatever. And those caps aren't necessarily the ones that are for your revision. Or
Yeah.
for the analog boards, there's a European model, then there's an American model and such. So I think it's a great little website that he has here. And obviously, if you have not subscribed to Bruce's channel, please do so, because there's a link right on his website there. Because he does fantastic video tutorials. I would not know I would even further not know what I'm doing without his guidance. So it's a great resource and a great person behind it. So thank you,
Thank
Bruce.
you very much. Thank you very much. The website itself actually spawned from doing searches for logic boards, trying to find really high-res images of logic boards, and just turning up these really cruddy sort of iPhone photos and stuff like that. And so I actually started just taking high-res photos for myself of all of the boards I was recapping, and that was then when I started making the guides. So I'm just adding them as I go. As new boards come in, I add them on there. So if you're looking there and saying, hey, where's this model or where's that model, it's just because I haven't recapped it yet. So when it comes in, I'll photograph it, I'll put up a guide. So yeah, you just have to
I'll have to take a photograph of the Mac 2 for you.
Yep. I've already got a couple on there, but yeah.
Oh no, that's right. No, I'm thinking of what was the one we discussed? One
there was 840 AV. 840
that's
AV.
it.
Don't have
Hey,
one of
just
those.
put a disclaimer: not recapped by me. Ignore the garbage.
Or
so
just
thanks for that,
pay
Steve. Appreciate it.
Bruce and send your board into Bruce.
So
Well deserved.
I-
Yes, if you don't mind the shipping to Australia.
Yeah, I've got a sneaky suspicion that might end up happening with the 840 AV after we found a short to ground somewhere on the 5-volt rails.
Oh, it's only 5 volts. It's fine.
Yeah, you don't need it.
So I went ahead and transitioned to shameless self-promotion because that's what it sounded like we were doing
This
there.
is
so.
pretty shameless. You're right.
I have no shame. Thank you for the pin combination, Bruce. Yes.
I feel like I've already had my go now.
Yeah, that's why I switched it. If you notice, I was like, I'm going to transition now because we're basically promoting well, actually, Steve started promoting Bruce.
So who's next?
I basically haven't been doing much of anything. I need to start getting back into making videos again. So I don't know what I'm going to do next, but it's going to be something with that G4 back behind me. So not the iMac, but the gigabit
Right.
one that I had acquired.
It's up and running now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Runs great on OS 9 Live. So
Nice.
We
Now, what's your prices for delitting CPUs?
I told you, basically shipping plus $20.
Well, no, but I'm talking somebody outside the.
That's what I'm talking about. Outside of
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh my
20
God!
bucks
People are gonna
per-
be jumping
per
on that,
hour.
man.
no, it only takes. Put it this way.
No, it takes a long time, Greg.
It takes me about 30 minutes to probably delid 2 CPUs.
Just like we keep telling Bruce, when you're recapping a CPU, you're recapping a board, it takes about 30 minutes per cap.
Yeah, but I'm not going to screw people
Without the
around.
speed juice.
I'm not going to screw people around like I see some people on the Facebook groups sit there and try to sell a delidded 5675 or 5680 or 90, and they want to charge $100 plus the CPU cost. So I'm like, it's not costing you $100 to delid that thing. Especially some of those guys are using the vice method, which I do not like using because the vice method could possibly damage the die. I don't care how much people say it works every time. I'm sorry, but I just do not trust it. I would rather use the heat method because I actually have
I'll show you my working CPUs with their temperatures and everything to prove that.
Yeah. and
Yeah.
I'd sent Rocky some that I deleted myself. The ones I have on this now, the 5675s I'm running on this one, right now my temps are 49 and 47, only because I'm doing a lot of broadcasting. It's a lot of processing. So, but they're running below 50 degrees, both CPUs. Normally
That's good.
at idle, they're running between 30 and 31 degrees Celsius at idle. So, to be honest with you, having that polished CPU is just a gimmick, like Jay said. So, and I think Jay said he would charge the same amount.
Yep.
Is that what you're charging that one guy that sent you that
Yeah.
lost his CPUs?
Yeah, there's actually, and I'll just slide into my own shameless self-promotion here. I've actually been getting quite a few people that are sending me Mac Pro power supplies for the Pixels mod, Xserve G5 power supplies for recapping, and now also Xeons for delitting.
Nice.
I don't know why, but I'll take it. And yeah, so that's been keeping me occupied. I put a lot of time into my website with the great help of Bruce there, helping me out with the code and all that stuff. And there's a lot more coming whenever he feels like he wants to work on it, because I'm too scared to ask him for favors. So whenever he wants to work on something, we'll work on it. But my priority right now is the website, Apple serial number info.com. I just want to get that up and running, ready for the next decade. I got a few more videos to make, and I have a package that got in the mail today. Rudy gave me a gift.
Is there stickers in it?
Should I open it now? Should I open it real quick?
Yeah, open it, Jay.
Are there stickers in it? I want to see if.
Oh, no, there's no
No,
stickers.
this came
No.
straight
If
from
it
eBay.
explodes, I'm
Oh,
gonna
please.
laugh hysterically.
It's a glitter bomb.
Looney Tunes
It's a
style.
glitter bomb.
I get a message.
Why is it shaking?
Says, "Merry Christmas, you filthy animal." And I'm like, okay, what is that about? And then
And this was in early January, by the way.
they included stickers.
Oh yeah, but not the
Oh,
ones you want.
Nice.
So, okay, this might take a little too long to open because they packaged it like it's going to Mars.
Maybe it did.
That's not a bad thing, though.
But yeah, Rudy found something online, figured I might want to have it.
Yeah.
So I now have a mirror drive door bezel with the zip drive slot in it.
Oh, nice.
So thank you, Greg. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, but
That is very nice.
No but.
gotta
No,
put in
no
that
need to
butt,
sully the
Jay.
story. No. All right, fine. Real quick, because we're running over time here. I saw Grudy's video where he installs one of these on his MDD, and he proceeds to mount a zip drive in his Mac, and it's not exactly the way it should be mounted. It doesn't really insert or eject like it should. Basically, it's a hot freaking mess. So I'm looking at it and like, well, when this arrives, I want it to actually work. I'm like, let's see if I can find a bracket. So I go on eBay. I type in MDD zip bracket. The first thing I find is a bracket complete with bezel for $10 or $15. So I ordered it, and I sent Greg a message that don't be mad, bro. Please. I just found this.
so he
So
has
once,
two of them now.
Once that all comes in, I'll use your bezel, but I'm going to use the official bracket that came from iOmega to mount the zip drive. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully it'll get here before the PowerPC challenge ends, so I can actually use it.
If you lend me a bezel, I'll be interested to try and get the dimensions of, or I guess you could get the
Actually,
dimensions of the actual sled.
Dan Yetman released the 3D printable model.
Oh, that's right. Yep. Never mind.
Nice.
What?
So I just need to print it out now.
Do you have a 3D printer?
No, I'm going to have someone print it for me.
My brother
A
has
model of
Just
what?
buy a 3D.
The bracket?
The bracket. He had
Oh, cool.
a 3D print model made of it.
Sweet.
Then buy a 3D printer. Problem solved. You
So
break enough
that's
stuff.
it for me.
Yes, that's a good point. I should.
No, I'm saying, man.
And Bruce, what are you going to be up to?
You to print some shit.
I'll be very quick. I just recently acquired a Macintosh LC575 logic board for nice and cheap. So I am going to be doing video of a Mystic upgrade to my Color Classic. So I will
Nice.
be obviously recapping this because it's got loads of caps all over it. And I will be doing the 640 by 480 mod to the resolution of the Color Classic. For those who don't know, the Color Classic originally came out with 512 by 384 resolution, which is useless. And so I'm going to be
Unless
changing
you're
it
running
to
Apple
640.
II games.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm going to be changing it to 640 by 480 using sort of a mod online, and then putting this board in it to upgrade my Color Classic to a 68040 CPU instead of a 68030. So
Nice.
that's something that I'll be setting up in the not too distant future.
So everybody look forward to Bruce's stream about 10 minutes from now, where he'll be starting.
Part one.
And I'll have
Does
to
that
fall
have,
asleep on his too. So
Does that have just a PDS slot on it, or there's a COM slot on there too?
There is a com slot as well. So
lucky.
we've got you got our little there's a com slot there, and there's our PDS slot there
Nice.
for those playing along at home. And I've got one RAM slot, I think, or is it one's
should be-
VRAM? Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
the
two
one
RAM,
there's only
two RAM slots, one VRAM slot. So yeah, I think
And-
that's it anyway.
Steve, if you want one, I have two 575s. If you want a board
I'll-
for one,
I'll
Fully
text you up
working.
later, buddy.
I know, right? You can have them. I got the complete systems. You want me to ship the whole dang thing?
I thought you wanted them. Well,
It'll
mine was
arrive in
awesome.
pieces.
I want one.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't need two.
We'll arrange a trade.
Got me.
yep. So anybody else got anything they want to shamelessly?
I do. I do.
Hey, I already
let
mentioned
Greg go
mine
first, and
earlier.
I'll wrap up.
Yeah.
The Mac Yak MacBook giveaway.
Ah, yes.
I finally we came up with the date when the live stream giveaway is going to be happening, and I actually filmed the video for the announcement last night, but I didn't have time today to edit it, so it's going out probably tomorrow. But I'm about to hit 6,000 subs, and by the time the giveaway happens, I should be at 6,000 subs. So I'm just putting down the date now. It's going to be January 31st, Friday. So the next Friday, I'll put out a video to announce the time it's going to happen. And, I got that coming. And then I've got that G5 I mentioned earlier. That's going to be a neat video. I've got a 1.25 gigahertz iMac G4 in original box, which I have delivered, but it's sitting at my mom's house, so I've got to go get it. And I also just bought a Gemini iBook clamshell. Yeah, I know, Steve.
What's a
That
Gemini?
poor iBook.
It's
That
an iBook that's
poor
been
iBook.
massacred.
Yeah,
Yes,
basic.
exactly.
Well,
That poor
the
iBook.
Gemini company created these systems for disabled people and people in the medical field, and it essentially turned the G4 clamshell into a tablet like the later mod books for MacBooks and MacBook Pros.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah, and I just found one. And the funny thing is, there's apparently another one on eBay currently. So it's
Well,
strange
I'll watch
because
your video,
they've
dude.
never been on eBay in the last 2 years. I've been looking for one.
Probably
The
because
only
they never died.
oh no, they die all the time. That's the problem. But I've only seen one ever for sale, and it was just a part system, and half of it was missing. But there's actually, I bought one complete system with everything but the original discs, but the software's on the drive. It's got the stand, keyboard, mouse, everything. The only thing that's wrong with it is what goes bad on all of them is the touch sensitivity on the screen, and it might be fixable, but that's not a huge loss. It's really neat. I can't wait to show you guys it. So.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, so Mr. H goes, congrats, Greg. A few drops of blood and some tears for 6K subs.
Yeah, basically. Thank you, Mr. H.
All right, guys. So I think that's, unless anybody's got anything else.
Steve.
Steve?
Yeah. So anyone
More
who watched
recapping
the,
stream.
Well, yeah, that's going to be the bane of my existence for the next 3 years, I think.
Have you got your flux yet, Steve?
No, I had to check on that order. It's one of those things.
We
where,
need
you
to
know,
kick his butt so he
you
learns
know-
how to use
I
flux.
get
no,
it delivered
you
in
know-
Australia faster than that.
Yeah, well, when you order something on Amazon, they don't charge you until it ships. They haven't charged me yet, so I had to check if. Yeah, it was
So
one of those
find a
things.
different one.
All right. Anyway, so
You want me to
with,
show
with
you
this,
mine?
with the Macintosh 2, I have Flux. It's just not good. Anyway, with the Macintosh 2, I need more memory, and I found a box of memory. So
Nice.
these are the
Hey.
30-pin Sims. I think I sacrificed these out of the 2CX because some of the labels on the back, where is it? Yeah, some of the labels on the back say like 2CX or 2CI or whatever. So these are not like spares; they go in machines. But at least I could see if there's enough to get me over that 2 megabyte hurdle. But I've also had some people on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube reach out and offer me some memory. So
Hey, if
thank
you want
you.
my Sims, I'll send you my Sims. If you
Well, I'm
want 'em.
about to say, if please keep the offers coming in. I'm sure I can use as much as I can because I need to match. I need to match 2 pairs of 4 Sims, and then probably to do something similar for my Macintosh Plus. So
And with that early revision of the Macintosh 2, you're going to need slow Sims as well.
yes, low. So there's a lot of recapping in my future. There's one video a scripted video I want to get out about the year 2020 and 2038 bugs on the classic Mac OS, and then do something cool about the Xserve PSU that Jay's sending.
That means I need to beat you to the Y2K38 video.
And I need to beat both of you.
What is all this beating? Let's just
I was
collaborate.
talking about that with Greg like 2 weeks ago. Like, oh, I should make a video. He's like, yeah, I'll make a video.
I tried the Y2K38 bug on a blue and white, and I'll tell you what, it screwed the thing up so
Yes,
badly.
it does. I have a video of that.
It was so bad, it would keep locking up OS 10. You couldn't change the date back. Even a param reset wouldn't do anything. You actually had to boot it into Classic, and for some reason, Classic would let you.
All right, so we're gonna have to make that another topic. So because we'll start talking about this right now.
I'll have the video ready for next week. Me and Greg will do something.
I'm going to start on that
Yeah.
right now. See you, dude.
Well, see, I was trying to do it on the Mac too. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to recap it to show that. So
To destroy it.
yes, to destroy it.
Okay.
But that's me.
All right. So anybody else got
As
any?
Greg yawns.
Yeah, I'm getting tired.
I'm gonna do my
Yeah.
stuff for the
Let's wrap it up.
1, but that's about it.
Yep. We want to see some speed tests go into the Mount Olympus challenge there. So
As soon as I start using it
Yeah,
with my
wipe the
normal
dust
stuff,
off those
then I
Discord
will.
channels.
I know, right?
you just geek bench
Yeah,
5.
currently, Rocky, you have a faster Mac Pro than I do.
What?
'Cause
How the heck is mine faster?
Because I never deleted my 80s, so I never got around to putting them in.
That's your own fault.
Exactly.
Because
Time to store
we've
more.
already discussed this. Greg is lazy. He doesn't do. He gets stuff projects
That's why
in.
my video will be out sooner.
Yeah.
Hey,
Don't count me out just yet.
hey, Mr. Clone Video.
Yeah.
At least we got a tour.
Yes.
There you go.
All right. So
Hey,
go ahead.
Jay, if your shipping is anything like your videos, well, I take that back, reverse that. If your videos are anything like your shipping, Steve is going to beat you to the punch. I'm just
Why?
saying.
I ship within a day.
Well, and that I was gonna say now you
Oh,
do.
boy. Rocky's never getting anything ever again.
Well, that's a fact.
Uh,
Oh, your tracking shows your CPU in Alaska. Oh, you should give him a call.
It's on its way to Australia. Bruce intercepted.
all right, guys. So we're about to the end of the show here. So
Just about.
well, yeah, we should be at.
GT's like, get off my stream.
It's like, yeah, hey, I have the power. I can cut this anytime I want. So anyways, guys, we got a new Discord link. That is the new one, and the link in the description should be changed as well. I already updated that. So if you want,
And I'll put it in the chat for good measure.
yeah. So basically, if you want to come out and join us on Discord, just remember, if you're a new user on Discord, you're only going to see one channel, and you have to read what's in that channel first. That's the rules of the server, and that's the only way you can get access. There's something you actually have to do in order to get full access. Well, not full access, but you'll get, basic user access, and then you'll see all the channels. So
You have to be smarter than third grader.
exactly. So go ahead and check that out. Also, guys, make sure if you like this video, hit that thumbs up. I know we should have said that earlier. I've only got
Even if you don't like it.
exactly. Hit the thumbs down. We still get counted for it, so it helps either way.
Exactly.
Oh, look at that. One thumbs down just came up because you said that. You jinxed us.
It's probably one of you guys
Right the
too.
whole time. That's
Next
it.
week, we don't want any thumbs up. We only want thumbs down.
Oh.
Don't do that.
All right. Also, if you're a new viewer, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and also hit that bell icon to follow all. We only send these videos out once a week, so you're not going to get a whole bunch of alerts. So if you would want to hit all alerts, we appreciate that, because we only do this once a week. We don't do any other videos on this channel whatsoever. This channel is basically just for us to do our live show. So all of our personal channels are listed in the description. If you want to go check those out, some of us do a lot more live streams than others. Steve, Bruce, some of us do a lot more videos than the rest of us, Grudy, but
And some of us don't do anything.
yeah, like
everyone
yeah.
else.
So go ahead, check that out, and go ahead and follow all of us if you could. We are over 620 something subs, I believe, right now, or somewhere close to that.
Thank you.
We're getting up to that 1,000 mark. So
We've had 20 subs, like 20 people watching tonight. That's
It's gonna cost a lot to fly Bruce over here. So
Yes.
you gotta keep
keep watching.
damn right.
going.
It's going to cost a lot
We
to
might
get.
open a Patreon.
It's going to cost
Yeah,
us a
'cause
lot
one
just to
day
get.
We need to do a video with all of us in the same
Yeah.
room.
And it's going to cost us a lot to get
And-
Rocky, because he lives out in the middle of Kansas, so there ain't really no.
Yeah.
So
Bruce,
It might
not
cost more to get
wrong.
Rocky here than Bruce.
yeah.
Might.
But anyways, glad you guys could join us, and I guess we will see you guys next week, right?
Absolutely.
Alrighty, so
Right.
See you on Discord.
see you on Discord.
See ya.
See you guys.